What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Dave McRae. Welcome to this special live AMA chit-chat sort of thing. Big booty bitches. But anyway, so that's a whole other thing. So that's a little bit of a thing. Don't worry about that. It is Friday, November the 29th, 2019. It is 9:28 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6:28 p.m. Pacific Time, and I am here with Cecil Laird and Miko Hughes. Gentlemen, happy belated Thanksgiving. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Happy Thanksgiving as well.
Yes.
Although, how does that? What's the equivalent blessing to Canada? Is there one? Not sure how that works.
Yeah. Well, no, we actually celebrate Thanksgiving the second Monday in October, I believe. So
That's right.
We already stuffed our faces full of turkey and right before Halloween. So,
Excellent.
Yeah. So in the chat room, I just want to make sure, can everybody hear Miko all right? Cecil, say something as well. You're...
Hello.
I just want to make sure we're okay. The chat room, tell us everything is okay. Go ahead, chat room. Tell us. Let's see. Just say yes. Okay,
yes.
I got a bunch of yeses.
I see yes.
I can hear. I can hear. Great. Well, that's important. So, perfect. So, gentlemen, this is exciting. Now, we actually, Cecil and I met for the very first time at the 40th anniversary Halloween convention in Pasadena, California, in October of 2018, and then Miko and I had the chance to meet just a couple of weeks ago, actually, when I was out in Los Angeles for the Voice Arts Awards and getting my face casted for Freddy Krueger. So, and you have some exciting news, Cecil. We just crossed the $20,000 mark just a couple of days ago for the Indiegogo campaign, right?
Technically, we're a little over the 21 mark now.
Excuse me.
Just real quick, Dave, can you rearrange the screen? The comments are covering up Cecil and Miko, it says. I don't see that on my stream, but
I don't see that here either.
Okay.
The comments.
So is anyone else seeing that, or is that just a weird, unique thing that Tabitha is showing?
The comments are covering up. I don't
know. It might just be how their window was set up. I'm not sure. I don't see anyone else complaining about it. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Forgive me, Dave. What was your question again?
It should be okay. Can you guys see everybody all right? It should be fine.
All good here. I see you all. Okay, everything looks good. It's just that one person that had a weird setup.
All right. Okay, cool.
So yes, we did indeed just pass the 21,000 mark. We're a little bit more than that, and still have a bit of a ways to go, but we're still going to be able to make a really awesome Freddy movie at this point. And we just launched a Black Friday weekend sale. Oh, excuse me. Oh my gosh.
Woo!
I'm allergic to cheap prices.
These savings.
Yeah. But we just put a tremendous amount of savings on the perks that had not yet been claimed. So you can get yourself one of these if you want at a 20% off price. You can have one of the few gloves that are going to be from the new movie. And then a lot of other cool
pretty
stuff.
wicked, man.
It is pretty badass.
I saw you putting it on earlier. I was like, damn, it's so sick.
I know. Before the end of the production, you may or may not have one of your own, Miko.
Ooh.
But
badass.
But nonetheless, yes. So the campaign is still going. Let me see, Dave. Is the link in the description? I didn't check.
It should be. Is it down there?
It is indeed. Top link.
Yep.
Beautiful. So yeah, if you guys want to go check it out and see those dramatically reduced prices, then you can go check it out.
That's right. Dramatically reduced. That glove is awesome. I had the chance to try it on when we were over at Nora's place there a couple of weeks ago, and it fit like a glove, no pun intended. And I like the mobility of it. Like, it had nice mobility in terms of exactly. You know, there weren't shit.
The armature
got some play to it.
Exactly.
It's perfect.
So now obviously Cecil, why don't you walk us through a little bit now that Miko is here, and we're having a chance to sort of hear his side of the story, which he'll let us know. But get us started with how this sort of came about for those of you that may not know how Dylan's new Ninghtmare sort of all came to be. Give us that tight, sort of nice, kind of compact version of just how this crazy thing, how we ended up here.
People are asking where the F is Rex.
Rex is dead.
He's probably put away and safe.
I could actually go get him. It would take a second. It's just in the other room.
It's up to you. It's up to you.
Yeah.
People are asking. I'll tell them you've heard the story, Miko. So
sure. Okay. I'll get that.
Just don't unplug your headphones.
Yeah, apparently that ruins everything. It's all my headphones. Exactly. Back in the flash.
All right.
So basically, I'll try and tell this briefly. If you're interested in the long story, on my channel, the Horror Show channel, I have been doing detailed vlogs about the process from start to finish. There are four up as of right now. And so it tells the full story with pictures and everything. But the long and short of it is, in 2017, a fan film called Never Hike Alone dropped, and that sort of showed me what fan films can be now. And I know there were Star Wars fan films and stuff like that before, but this is horror. And Vince DeSanti, who made that movie, raised the bar for fan films. The very next year, Rene Rivas comes out with The Spirit of Haddonfield. And he, shows again what can really be done when there's a really beautifully shot fan film. And so I thought to myself, if I was going to do another fan film, because we technically did do one before, it was called Sweet. It was a Skinner Sweet fan film, an American vampire comic book fan film. I said if I was going to do another fan film, I'd want to do my favorite character, which is Freddy, because he doesn't get enough play right now. And so when I was thinking of an idea of where to set the fan film, my first place was to continue the Wes Craven's New Nightmare continuity, because New Nightmare has always been one of my favorite installments. I always loved that one, and I thought it was...
Did you... Sorry to interrupt, but did you at any point think to yourself, was it... Although New Nightmare has always been one of your favorite Freddy films, was there ever a point before you made the decision to write the script as sort of an unofficial sequel to that movie? Was there ever a point where it was like, you know what, maybe I should do it as a sequel to this one? Or because I know how much you like Nightmare 4, and I know how much...
Three, actually. Three. Dream Warriors is my favorite.
Okay, three. Well, right. It's 4 is the glove that you like the best, right?
Yeah, 4 is the glove that I like the best.
Okay, fair enough. Correct. I have been corrected. So was there ever a moment where you thought to yourself, 3, maybe I should do it after 3, or was it always New Nightmare?
It was always New Nightmare up until like 3 weeks ago. I finally had another idea that would work in the other continuity, but no, when I was thinking of ideas, the idea that flowed the best, that I thought was the best continuation, that allowed for the actors to return and really have a juicy bite at that apple, a juicy second bite at that apple, or in some actors' cases, a juicy fourth bite at that apple. If things worked out in a perfect world, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I thought that this was the best story I could come up with. And again, New Nightmare being one of my favorite in the franchise, without the baggage of having to live up to like Dream Warriors and
Right.
stuff. I mean, living up to Wes Craven's New Nightmare is a big deal anyway, because it was Wes Craven coming back and realigning the franchise as to what he thought it should be. Scary,
Of course.
that's daunting enough as it is, but I just thought that the New Nightmare script allowed for the easiest 25 years later story.
Sure.
And most interesting, in my opinion, too, because I loved Dylan as Miko played him.
Right.
Back in the day, I loved Miko
It was
as
very
an actor
meta.
back
It
in
was
the day
very
anyway.
meta. It was very meta.
It was very meta, but I mean, I was a big fan of Miko, and part of this whole story was the first time I met him, I actually quoted Mercury Rising as opposed to anything else.
Right.
And that wasn't something that I guess Miko was terribly used to, right? Miko, not that many people quote
Yeah,
Mercury
not
Rising.
at horror cons, because
Yeah.
most people are there for the horror films. So that was that was unique.
So
It took me
that
by surprise.
that's what's going to kind of be unique about this stream, I think, is that I'm going to be able to say my side, and Miko's going to be like, no, that's bullshit, or or confirm. So yeah, I really liked the idea of where we could go in the New Nightmare universe with certain characters being certain places, but let's pick up with Dylan 25 years later, after things weren't quite as happy an ending as we saw at the end of Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Right. So you're at a convention in, somewhere in Arizona, in your neck of the woods. And Miko, you were there. Which convention was it?
Well, actually, the first time... Yeah, go ahead, Miko.
Well, actually, was it North Carolina? Was that
Yes.
the first one?
The first one was Mad Monster Carolina. Yep.
Yeah. No, actually, you probably you started off, and I'll
Okay, please.
confirm. Yeah.
So what happened was we have, over the course of the Horror Show channel, become we've been going for about 5.5 years, and about 2 or 3 years ago, we became the official press for the Mad Monster horror conventions. Because every time in Arizona, we would film all the panels and we would film the interviews, and we were respectful to all the celebrities and everyone that rolled through. And one of the runners of the convention, Eben, was like, hey, we respect how you guys do things. You don't screw everyone over. You know your place, all this stuff. How about you be the main press? And so this was actually the first year that we ever went to cover Mad Monster Carolina, or Mad Monster Charlotte in North Carolina, as press. And I saw that Miko was going to be there, and I had recently thought of this idea, and I was like, well, we're the press. We're the only ones that are technically allowed to interview the celebrities. So I'm going to see if Miko's willing to do an interview. I'll do the interview, and
That doesn't stop most people. That's I'm sure you know. But
but I was given
the official in.
I was given the ability, if I ever saw that, to boot those people and tell them to not do it.
Sure,
So
yeah.
I never exercised that ability, but I loved having it.
Right.
And so I basically did this, and Dave, you kind of know how I'm a little bit subservient when what's the word I'm looking for? Not subservient. Not even submissive. I'm like, I can't think of the right word. I'm very sly about how I do things.
Yes.
Subtle. There you go. That's probably the word I'm looking for, Miko. So I had this whole interview for Miko, and I just had one question that was kind of snuck in the middle there, where I was like, hey, so with the current popularity of like the fan films of horror and stuff like that, like Never Hike Alone and The Spirit of Haddonfield, if someone ever came to you with like a continuation of New Nightmare, like, I don't know, Dylan's New Nightmare or something like that, would you ever be willing to look at a script like that? And he said, yeah, I think so. I'd be open to at least looking at something like that. And so from then, I just kind of continued on with the interview. But in my head, I was like, oh, okay.
You
cool.
Definitely, that was sly. You definitely slow played it. That was good, man.
Well, he did the same thing with me in, the Freddy Krueger thing. It was, I had no idea. I mean, I knew that you wanted to hear different versions, but I had no idea that you were sort of inconspicuously auditioning me to see what I could do for the approach, which was...
Yeah, Miko, if you didn't know, and for any of the viewers that didn't know, the way I actually got Dave involved was I did an interview with Dave a few months ago, and it's actually an interview that I initially requested when we first met way back at the Halloween convention in November of last year. I was like, yeah, man, I'd like to do an interview with you sometime. And he was like, yeah, sure, we could do that. And then I just, I'm so busy with other stuff, putting up 1 to 2 episodes a day. It just sometimes things fall by the wayside. So once this idea came around, and once I realized that Dave would be a really kick-ass Freddy, I was like, hey, can we finally do this interview? And by the way, you're a voice actor, and I respect what you do because I've attempted to do that as well. And it's a tremendously fun thing, so we could have a lot to talk about there. And also, as a voice actor, let's just say Hollywood came a-knocking and said, we want you to do... So I was like, I'm going to have 3 things that I was the only question I prepped him for. I was like, I'm going to have you do 3 different voices if you want to put some prep into it. I want your take on, like, if Dimension came and said, hey, we want to reboot Scream and we want you as the Scream voice. And then I said, what would you sound like as Michael Myers if he spoke? And then finally, what would your take on Freddy be? Right. And so that was just one of my questions. My own mind knowing, okay, this is his audition. But if he can pull off the Freddy, then I'm going to ask him to do the role, kind of thing.
But you know what's interesting is I remember prior to the interview, you said you had a question you wanted to ask me at the end of the show, or at the end of the interview. And I said, okay. And then after the interview was done, you were about to let me go, or sort of there was that natural sort of end point. And then I was reminded, oh, he had something he needed to ask me. So I said to you, oh yeah, that thing that you were going to ask me is, and then you went into it. So I question, if I had not brought that up, would you have sort of, gone back, thought about it more? Would I even be having this conversation with you right now?
You just left me the open window, honestly. Like, you just made it easier where I didn't have to try and crowbar it in somewhere. I was going to try and, like Miko said, slow play it.
Right.
Where it wasn't going to be like I had planned to do it that night necessarily. Right. I might have been like, hey, so I was thinking after the stream, you did a really good, I wasn't sure if I was going to do that, but I figured, no, let's just go for it.
So now, he asks you, Miko, if you would be interested in if somebody came to you with a fan film script for Dylan's for a new Nightmare sequel, because of course at that time there was no title. But no, I think you did say that though, right?
Yeah, I did in the interview. I actually say, and it's funny, in the vlog where I tell this story, I actually drop in that segment of the interview so you can actually see the interaction.
Right. So he says this to you, and what's your first thought?
It was something I had never considered before. It kind of genuinely took me by surprise, and it was an interesting thought. Of course, would be curious, how would that be executed? What would that even entail?
Right.
I mean, those are just kind of the first few thoughts that went through my head. So it was, I didn't want to be, I was a little guarded or cautious, but I was intrigued. So I was like, I would read it. I would definitely want to see what that could be. And was it how many months later we crossed paths again? And
it was February to June. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he dropped a script on the table and was like, well, let me know what you think. It's like, holy cow, okay, this is like a real thing. And you never know, you get scripts here and there, cons. A lot of people have ideas for things, and some are better than others, and some come to fruition. Many don't. But this is the first thing I had seen for New Nightmare specifically, and because it is meta and the time gap, it is really kind of a fun exploration of something that could be done that kind of makes sense. So I didn't think I was going to have time to read it until. Feel free to hop in if I'm like skipping over stuff, because I know you have a lot of details.
I was actually dying for your side of this part, because here's where my gap goes. Okay.
Yeah.
So I hand you the script and you tell me, and because Susie's right there next to me, I'm like, I got to have female backup because she's prettier than me, so he might be more willing to accept the script. And actually, that was
I
just
taken it regardless.
That was just when I asked.
Yeah.
Well, big booty bitches always help. But
For everyone in the
nonetheless,
chat that wonders what's that about, we were doing the mic check earlier, and he's like, "Miko, say something." I said, "Big booty bitches,"
That's
and
right,
now
that's
it's a
right.
thing.
Just so you guys know, we're not misogynist.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Just so we know,
totally out of appreciation.
This started with
Nothing
Miko.
100%.
disrespectful.
I'm totally on board. Like, yeah, that's good.
But yeah, no. So actually, when I asked if he was still willing to read the script, I was with Susie. I was like, "Hey, remember us? We were the ones that did the interview in Mad Monster," because I wouldn't have expected you to remember that at all.
Right.
And the fact that you did, I was like, that actually, my heart my heart must have grown like 6 sizes that weekend, because every time something positive happened, it just went whoop, a little bit bigger. So here's my timeline. I give you the script, and I actually am I think intelligent enough to bring Vince over with me, because I go to Vince's table and he has Never Hike Alone there, and I'm like, "Hey, can I buy a copy to take to Miko as proof of like what fan films can be?"
Had you guys kind of collaborated? I mean, was he already on board at that point, or was that
he was on? Believe it or
or
not, he and I had discussed it the previous night in detail for the first time.
Wow.
So
this is in Arizona.
At Arizona, yeah.
Okay.
So I had mentioned to him before he arrived that I had this idea, and he's like, "Oh, cool." And I knew that I'm sure he was a guy that had been approached numerous times by numerous people with ideas, right? But luckily, we had this history where the previous year, both him and Renee crashed at my house one night of Mad Monster Arizona.
I think I remember Renee mentioning that too.
Yeah.
We were there, yeah.
So I reached out to Vince and I was like, "Hey, Mad Monster is giving us a hotel room this year. If you need to crash, let me know." And he's like, "Well, it turns out I do need to crash Thursday night, which was the night before you had arrived." So I had that whole night where Vince was in my room to explain everything to him. And so he was like, "That's actually a really good idea." And so the next day when I was like, "Hey, can I buy a copy of Never Hike Alone to take with Miko?" He's like, "Just take one." And I was like, "Is there any chance you'd be willing to walk over with me?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll go over with you." And so at that point, I think that was his kind of split-second decision. Like, "Yeah, I'm game to be on board for this kind of thing." And so I didn't actually confirm that he was willing to produce it until the dinner after the con that weekend. So that Sunday, Renee and I went to dinner, and that's when I kind of confirmed that he was willing to produce and everything. So I was just trying to be strategic about everything during this. And anyway, so
it worked out really well.
Yeah, really, believe it or not, like I am floored on a daily basis how well it's worked out. So I gave you the script, and you're like, "Yeah," you were very polite, very gracious, one of the more polite celebrities I've met at all the cons. And you said, not that I've given scripts to anyone else, because I haven't.
Shut up! Yes, you have! No.
You must give scripts to all the celebrities.
All the celebrities get a script. Yeah, I spend that much time. Ooh. No, but
Making
you were
me
like,
feel all special.
what was awesome was when I walked by with Susie, I said, "Hey, I got that script I told you about in Charlotte," and you're like, "Oh, well, if I'm not reading that back in LA, I'm going to be pissed." And I was like, "Awesome, cool." So that like lit my fire a little bit. So I was happy to bring you the script later. I brought you the script, and you're like, "Awesome." So I'll read this when I get back to LA, and I'll get back to you.
Because I figured I wouldn't have time, and I wanted to give it the time. I didn't want to like just breeze through it. I wanted to give it a proper attention. So
my understanding is that from that point, you had every intention on reading it on the plane, on the way back, maybe when you got back, And my understanding is that you felt a little under the weather, so you were back at the hotel.
Yeah, I got kind of sick that night.
Yeah, you had that migraine. You had to rock those sunglasses because you had that migraine that day.
Yeah, I was not feeling good.
You saw an opportunity to read this script, and you did. What was your first thought, Miko, when you read the script?
I want to know this too.
Or what was your first thought? Let's do this. Your first thought after you were done, because it's a short script, so it's about, what is it, 21
pages.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a short film. And what was your first thought after you were done? And what was the moment as you were reading the script where it was like, this is, okay, interesting. And what was that moment for you?
It built throughout it. I mean, one thing led to the next and was like, hey, that's cool. that totally makes sense. This plays into, the following thing. I felt like it wasn't, a lot of scripts kind of meander.
Right.
I think the scenes made sense.
Right.
They accomplished what they needed to, and there was not a lot of fat on them. It's like, get in, get it done, establish what you need to, so you can we curse on YouTube?
Yeah.
Establish what you need to, so you can fuck shit up, and things progress, and it was cool. It had good pacing. I'm not. I was a little when I saw it said like Dylan's New Nightmare. Like, okay, that's very kind, like to appeal to my ego, but I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not trying to make it about that. So I was a little like, ooh,
it's an appropriate
that's a
title.
lot. But then I'm getting there. Yeah. Like,
okay.
When I read it, it's like, oh, this is. It makes sense. It ties it back to the original. It kind of brings it around. Kind of leaves it. I don't know how much we're like expanding on here, but there's potential for episodic, for like different things. It could be many things. That just happens to be what this one is. It's cool. And it just clicked. It was in the back of my mind. I wanted to read it, but I didn't want to rush through it. So when I wasn't feeling good, I was like, hey, I think I went back to the room for a couple hours because was it Friday or Saturday night?
You went,
and that's when
went
everything's
back,
popping at the con. That's when all the fun stuff. So
the con
was.
closed at 6, and then it was the Madam Monster show that we were both filming.
Yeah,
and you tried to talk to me in the middle of it.
Yeah, I took an hour or two off to kind of get over that. I think I left the con a little early to try to fight the migraine, and then I read it, and I was excited because I was like, okay, now's a good time. I'm in bed anyway. I might as well just absorb this. And I didn't like seek you out, but we ended up at the same thing. And I saw you there filming, and I was like, dude, I gotta tell him, like, I already read it, and it's fucking awesome. Like, it was so cool. And you didn't really hear me because you had your headset on, and I felt bad because you're working, and I was trying to like find moments where you weren't having to like pan or zoom or do anything too crazy. But at the same time, I should have waited till you were like done, because I think you didn't fully. What did I say? I was like, dude, I read it. And you're like, oh, cool. But I don't think you heard me.
I thought you had said, this is cool, right? Like, I thought you were saying this show is cool. Because you were filming. Yeah. What we were filming is called the Madam Monster Show, and it's realistically a burlesque show.
That was cool.
And it was cool. It was cool. And yeah, you were down there with your black magic. Yeah, big booty bitches, exactly. You're down there with your black magic, and you're getting some good footage. And I'm up there with the main center camera. And yeah, you stood up and you're like, hey, and I was like, oh, what's up? And you're just like, I thought you said, this is cool, huh? And I was like, yeah. And you like held your hand up, and so I like fist bumped you, and I was like, yeah. And then afterwards, you came up, everyone had entered out, and he was like, hey, you didn't hear me, huh? And I was like, no. And you're like, I said I read your script and I really liked it. And I was like, oh, holy shit, really? Like, that's what I remember doing.
Absolutely.
But
that was fun. It was a fun moment.
You're 100% right, because when Cecil sent me the script and I looked at it, and it took me, like, I read it that night because I got back to you, I think, within, like, I don't know, what was it, the next morning or something like that? Like, I read it pretty fast,
very quickly.
And
another reason why I wanted you over my previous actor.
I share the same thoughts. When I read it, it had nice pacing to it, had nice flow, even through, because there's a lot of dialogue in it. The dialogue, as you know, Miko said, it made sense, and everything from what I remember from New Nightmare, and admittedly, it's probably not one that I have on the Rolodex the most. I probably switch between the earlier films the most, but from what I remember and where it could go and the things that you've told me about it and the potential of all that, yeah, it was a solid short script. Like, I mean, there's a lot of short scripts that, like as Miko says, has a lot of fat, meanders, it kind of just feels like it's existing, but this felt very tight, and it
has purpose. And if you're a fan of New Nightmare or the Freddy franchise, it's written by a true fan for true fans, and it shows. Like
100%. And it made me revisit New Nightmare because I watched it shortly after that, and it made me realize not that I ever think that maybe they would, but it made me realize that, and I know fans want, real Freddy, but it made me realize that actually there is, in the New Nightmare universe, there is a lot of untapped potential. to further the story. And I didn't even really think about that, because it's one of those movies that is sort of, it's meta, it's unorthodox. It's I don't want to say it's the black sheep of the family, but it's that one that breaks the fourth wall, and it's really cerebral, and it's it's kind of out there a bit, right? But when
in a way, it kind of lends itself to being able to be expanded and adapted, and the whole dream element of Freddy in a way, anyway,
right,
has the potential to expand and become its own thing and kind of fold in everything.
Right. And because it's sort of you're looking at things a little more objectively, as you just said, you have that opportunity to make things feel more subjective and layer it and make this really interesting kind of world. I mean, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves here, and we're but it's the
world is there. It's all there. It's
100%.
just a matter of getting
potential,
it down.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's a matter of whether or not we can do it all or not. And I listen. This is going to be made, and it just depends on how people respond to it, whether or not we get to make kind of the rest of it or not. But I think even in and of itself, it's a satisfying enough short story that it's worth tackling. And again, it's 100%, 150% dream project for me on a number of levels. Again, it's my second favorite Freddy movie. It's literally the only horror movie that my dad ever went with me to go see. So it holds a very special place in my heart for that alone. And the fact that even the teaser that we made for this project, which is available on the channel, that week I hold as the best week of my entire life.
Wow.
Like it
was pretty fun. It was pretty fun.
It was challenging for me, and it wasn't as tight as I will make sure my set is for the actual thing, but it was a very much get to know you and let's see how we all work together kind of thing. And it was such a joy.
It was fantastic.
It really was. And I just look back at it, and it's like, thank God, no one thought it was a waste of time, but it really was a soul enriching and fulfilling thing for myself. And just seeing it through is only going to, exponentially increase that, I feel. Right. But, it was a very good trial run. And if that's what we can do, and knowing, again, it might have been a little Freddy dialogue heavy, and I acknowledge that, but that was a kind of a last minute switch from what I had previously planned in order to keep copyright issues at bay. So Freddy's not going to talk quite that much, but it's, as you guys said, I feel like it's appropriate for the film.
Nice. It was a nice way to get our sea legs, I think, and
Agreed.
See, and I think what's kind of nice too that I didn't quite anticipate, and at first I was a little surprised by, but now I'm really into the idea, is it kind of has its own tone. It has its own voice. It's definitely New Nightmare, but it's also like the glove. It's becoming its own thing while honoring everything prior.
100%.
Which,
yeah.
Same with the makeup, by the way,
yeah.
which, Dave can speak to that a little bit based on our experience.
I'm really excited about this. When you told me, Cecil, because I know, look, there are some amazing, genuinely amazing silicone Freddy Krueger masks out there that absolutely are perfect for cosplaying and even your average, low budget fan film. It is absolutely perfect. From a distance, you would think that it, and in the right lighting and under the right circumstances, it's great. However, when you are making something of this caliber and you are wanting to raise the bar to never hike alone production value, and you want to make a statement, you're going to be showing a lot of close-ups. Not a lot, but I mean, there's going to be some that, you're going to reveal some details.
You got to have like a couple money shots in there.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
100%.
Yeah.
And when Cecil said, I made the decision, I think it's best, I consulted with Nora as well, and I think it's best that we go prosthetics. Like, we actually go full on Robert Englund in the chair for 3 hours, get your makeup done. How do you feel about that?
4 hours, Dave. Don't try
7 hours. 7 hours.
Don't try and shave. No, she said 4. I just want to make sure you're prepared. Don't try and shave time off, because you got to be ready for 4, brother.
has there been any like preliminary like prototype stuff since
what's
then
interesting.
that you guys have seen?
Yes.
Not yet, because
okay.
yes
I'm
and no,
stoked.
because Nora is working on something really huge right now.
Right. Oh,
So
great.
it's
she's a little bit on the back burner.
We codenamed it "Man Behind the Curtain." Miko, I'll text you right now with what it actually is.
Ooh, cool.
But
excited.
so once she's done with that, she's on all about this.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience. I'd never early on in my career, I dabbled with some on camera, and then I made the transition to voiceover. And to actually wait, what happened?
I just got the text. That's fucking awesome. All
right?
Cool.
Yeah, that's legit, right?
Yeah. Oh, you saw it. Yeah.
He just texted me.
Okay, yeah. So that's what. So
good for her.
Yes, I'm cool enough to have Miko's text. What?
you texted him what she's doing right now.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
We're passing notes.
All right.
Yeah, we're passing notes in class.
I'm completely out in the loop. I'm like,
sorry,
what the fuck is going on? No, I was just gonna say that. The Lifecast experience was a great experience in and of itself, and that was a lot of fun, and to be able to be there, but also afterwards to have the discussion. This is about maybe an hour and a half before we all got together with you, Miko.
This was fun.
Dinner, and we shot the shit. We sat in Nora's place, and we went over, what Freddy is going to, or what the idea, what the general consensus is of the direction that they want to go. Now, I mean, I offered my input where I saw, where I felt was appropriate, but I'm the hired, hand, and I'm just there to sort of kind of hear it. But to watch Vince and Cecil and Nora sort of kibitz about that and go over it, and then it got me really excited about it, because it's the most important thing for me in this, and it's not an official sequel or anything, but the most important thing for me, I've always believed that, listen, Robert Englund is Freddy. He'll always be Freddy to us who grew up with him. However, personally, and this has nothing to do with me. I mean, I could not be a part of this, and I would still feel the same way. I always have. That I do believe that there is somebody, more than one, who can do justice to the character. And I believe that Robert Englund believes that as well. And I think the approach is not to do a Robert Englund Freddy Krueger impression, but to be on screen, to bring the essence of the character there, so that when you watch Dylan's new Nightmare, you look at that and you go, I believe that's Freddy Krueger. It might not be Robert Englund, but I totally believe that is Freddy. And if I can achieve even 75% of that, then I think I've done my job. And so I'm really excited about the idea of it being prosthetic makeup, because I believe that is only going to help in that reality, because it's not something you see very often when it comes to Freddy. Whether it's cosplaying, whether it's just Halloween, whatever the case is, you don't usually see people go that far, that meta into playing Freddy, and I'm really excited about it.
Can I just tag up on that just real quick?
100%.
Because here's something that we haven't mentioned, because it's pie in the sky territory, obviously, but keep in mind, yes, we have cast Dave as our Freddy. Freddy in the new Nightmare universe is an evil entity that has come to enjoy the form of Freddy. He was even billed as himself in New Nightmare.
Right.
So technically, in New Nightmare, Robert played Robert Englund, the confidant of Heather Langenkamp.
Right.
So it's not outside the realm of possibility. While it is pie in the sky territory, while we do have our Freddy, it's not outside the realm of having Robert, show up later down the line in a absolutely perfect world where he could still play himself.
Dude.
So here's the thing. We're very realistic about what we can achieve. He's not part of part one, obviously, but, we also like to dabble in, we want to make sure we're prepared for any possibility. Exactly. Thank you, Miko.
It theoretically could totally make sense if we ever got to that level.
100%. Listen, if Cecil, if you came to me, if this thing is a success and you came to me and you're like, okay, you know what, we're going to do it too. And I'm like, all right. And you said, you know what, Robert Englund's on board. And if, I mean, the potentiality of a lot of the things that you've told me, some things I can't say, of where this could go, excites me beyond belief. Because, I mean, even as an Elm Street fan, to have that opportunity to be able to do that would be huge, you know? And so, I mean, it excites me. I mean, and a lot of people have asked me, because I'm a voice actor, have you ever had any on-camera acting experience? And I have. I started my career doing docudramas, commercials, things like that. And then I broke my teeth playing road hockey, very Canadian thing. And obviously I couldn't actually...
road hockey isn't the most Canadian thing I've ever heard.
No, but it is kind of a Canadian kind of, you know...
I mean, you got hockey in there, so I can't.
What is that?
Exactly.
That sounds badass.
Yeah.
Road hockey.
Road hockey. Playing hockey
it's
out
like,
on the street.
It's like what Clerks was doing, except not on the roof of the Quick Stop. They were on the road instead.
Street
sounds
hockey.
Like
Does that
hockey
make
in
more sense?
Mad Max world.
Right.
There you go. Road hockey. The Road Warriors playing hockey. I like your world, Miko.
Hey,
Let's go there.
yes,
Holy crap.
Yes. So I busted my teeth. I was on hiatus for a bit, and I was already doing the voiceover, and then I decided to make the transition sort of kind of full time, and the rest is history. So I do have experience with it. I've taken a lot of, I've done a lot of theater and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So to be on camera is not a big deal for me. What is doing justice to the character, because I want people to look at it and I want people to be like, you know what, that's totally Freddy, or the entity, you know, known as, right? I mean, that's what I want them to see. So, you know, that was one of the things that attracted me to the project, was not just that Miko was on board, but also that everybody, you know, I mean, you know, as you know, Miko, I mean, making films or making TV or whatever it is, it's a collaborative team effort. And
absolutely.
You've got to be on the same page. And that doesn't mean that there aren't, you know, ups and downs, but certainly
challenges.
100%. But certainly having a good team on board is also what attracted me, right from you to Cecil to Vince to, you know, Renee to Nora to, I mean, just the I
think everybody's playing to their strengths very well, which
100%.
Is setting us up for high potential for success.
100%.
And I got to say too, everything you said now and everything you were saying earlier about Freddy and the character and your approach and your thought process on it is exactly what I think the person that needed this role needs to have. So Cecil, you absolutely made the right choice. I think I'm really excited to work together.
The fact that it's you saying that means a lot. So Dave, I can't pay you a higher compliment than Miko just did.
Well, I just
proxy.
And I appreciate you saying that, Miko. It means a lot, obviously, because you you know, actually worked with Robert, and to be able to step into his shoes is a fun thing to be able to do. But I think that's how I think anytime. I don't think it's mutually exclusive necessarily just to Freddy. Although Freddy more so maybe than Jason or Michael, because there's a performance verbal aspect to Freddy that you don't get with the other two characters.
But a distinct character.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a distinct animated sort of approach to him. But I think whether you're replacing Han Solo, whether you're replacing Indiana Jones, whatever the case is, you don't go in doing a Harrison Ford impression. You go in to bring the essence of the character there. So when I look at him, I believe that's Indiana Jones. And
their
I think
history and motivations.
100%. And I think that there are people in this world that can bring justice to Freddy, as much as a lot of people don't want to believe it. You know?
Well, I honestly, Dave, I'm sorry to interject real quick, but the fact that you not only took it so seriously, and again, guys, my first actor that I talk about in the vlogs, he had the script for almost 3 months and never read it. So it's like when that happens, you know that they're not into the project, and you got to kind of, I was like, this whole time, like not long before I realized that, I realized that Dave would have been a much better. Sorry, go ahead. What was the question?
Just sorry, curious. Was it the guy that I met the first? Okay.
Yes.
So during that time too, that was my biggest hesitation about the whole thing. It's like,
Was
if we're
him
gonna do a
really?
Freddy, yeah. If we were gonna, no, he was a nice guy and it was a cool outfit and everything. And I think it was early on we were exploring, seeing like, okay, where's this gonna go? What kind of level? But my thought is okay, the story's really, it clicks, it works, it's a fun idea, this could happen. But if you're gonna make a Freddy film, you gotta bring it with the Freddy, and I was not feeling it, you know, just from that initial kind of thing. And then hearing that, you know, that I don't think he was taking it seriously, or you know, it just wasn't a fit. And we found
up
the
on
fit,
it, yeah,
you know?
earlier than even I did. So no, it's good that, you know, I look, I made the connection not long after that, so it was just a matter of how I was going to kind of gracefully make the transition, you know what I mean? But
Sure.
Obviously I'm very glad that I did.
I think too, you know, and Miko can obviously speak to this as well. I think, you know, I mean, working in the industry, you know, when I receive scripts, although they're voiceover, on a daily basis. So when I receive them, I mean, my agents count on me to read them. So I mean, it's when you send me something, I don't think about it. I'm just like, oh, I'm you know, it's built into the performer's DNA, whether you're in front of the camera, behind the camera, you know,
Because
behind
you're
the
a
mic, in front
goddamn
of the mic.
professional. That's why.
but it's true. And so, like, you send it to me, I'm excited about it. I'm going to read it. It's not going to take me 3 months to read because time is of the essence. And that's
sometimes you need
important.
a little time, but 3 months is.
Oh, yeah. No,
he just
for sure.
wasn't genuinely interested.
Agreed.
If he's not reading it.
Yeah,
When I called him to let him know, in fair play, you know, not to sound like he was an actor, that, you know, he was like, when I told him, he was like, oh, thank God. Like, his heart wasn't in it to begin with, you know.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah.
But just real quick, Dave, I just want to interject. There have been 4 super chats.
There have. I've been monitoring them. You want to take them? Here,
I just want to give them real quick. Bobby Reeves, it sounds like the first one he was talking to someone else for $1.99. Mike, did you like the new Pet Cemetery? They might have been asking Miko.
Okay,
so
yeah,
Miko, do you want to ask real quick?
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So
Miko,
I have
first,
a few of them here. Hang on a sec. Let's
go ahead. Yeah, Dave, by all means, it's yours.
Okay. No worries. Yeah, Bobby Reeves, thanks for the super chat. Bobby says, I think he says Mike, but I think he means Miko. Miko, did you like the new Pet Cemetery?
Yeah, I did. I liked that it brought attention to the original, because either way, if it was awesome, that's great. It just adds to it. Or if it was terrible, then everybody can say the original's better. So it's kind of win-win for me. I think it. I wanted to like it more than I did. I did enjoy many parts of it, but I think the emotion just kind of fell flat. I think it felt a little rushed. I think I know they spent a lot of time on it, and it was fantastic. I think that with maybe a little more attention, it could have been better. It wasn't bad. It was not bad by any means, but it wasn't particularly memorable to me.
Gotcha.
But,
all right.
Yeah.
There you go, Bobby. Dantastic. Thanks for the super chat. Dantastic says, Miko Hughes is Batman. Just saying, I called it. Shh.
Yeah. I think they saw my shirt earlier.
Yes,
that's
they
probably why.
Bobby Reeves follows up with Smiley Caitlin 20 has a disability and would like hey, Smiley Caitlin 20 must be somebody in the chat room who has a disability, and I'm assuming would like a shout out from Miko. Smiley Caitlin.
Hi, Smiley Caitlin. How's it going, Smiley Caitlin?
There you go.
You sound very happy and personable and fun to be around. So Smiley.
That's 100%.
Yeah, Smiley's been interacting the whole time, so good on Smiley.
Awesome. Welcome, Smiley. Dantastic follows up with, I mean, he changed at the end of New Nightmare. Oh, did I miss something? He must have responded to something else.
When we were talking about Freddy and New Nightmare, this is what he's responding to.
Oh,
so
I
yeah.
see. Okay. I mean, he changed at the end of New Nightmare in the fire to show Demon makes sense he would look different. It makes sense that he would look different after that. I don't know, but
I think he's saying I'd buy into that.
I'd buy into that. Yes.
Or be into that.
I'd be into that. Yeah. Well, we can't say much about that, Dantastic, but let's just say that
I just said my response was very astute, Dantastic.
Yes. Let's just say that we are very excited to show you what we've been working on. Let me see here.
That catches us up on the super chats.
catches up on the super chats. A couple of non-super chats. Let's see here. Savannah Heffron, Heffron, hopefully I'm saying that right. Miko Hughes, I'm such a fan of Freddy Krueger and everything you do.
Well, thank you. That's very sweet.
Tabitha Short,
nice.
Tabitha says, Dave will do much better Freddy than Jackie Earl Haley. Well, thank you, Tabitha. We shall see. We shall see. I think.
The fact that you already
Earl,
have done a movement test, it speaks volumes. Is all I'm saying.
Well, I think Jackie Earl. I wasn't a big fan of the 2010 remake, but I think Jackie Earl Haley, at the end of the day, was one of the least issues with the movie. I think there were other issues to tackle first before him. But I appreciate the compliment.
After a rewatch, I totally agree with you. They totally botched the characters in that you didn't have a chance to get to know anyone before they started dying off, so you didn't care and have an attachment to anyone.
Well, and also too, when you start watching the movie, everybody is already in the process of being haunted by Freddy.
Exactly.
And as attractive as Rooney Mara is, she was already very emo from the get-go, and it was very difficult for me to get any sort of see that transition, from happy-go-lucky into real sort of despair. She was already it's as if we were thrust right in the middle of it.
Most attractive piece of wallpaper I've seen in a movie.
Frank Riker, super chat. Thank you, Frank. Frank says, Cecil, will Dave be on the ceiling in this movie?
If we raised 80,000, I could build a rotating room, but barring that,
Dude,
would be a little tough to achieve.
If you raise 80,000, I will have lunch on. I will sleep.
You'll make
on
moon
the ceiling.
boots and
I think at our budget we'll just Gorilla Glue some boots to the ceiling and turn you up, time in there real tight.
That'd be amazing.
It would be Everplay Skin the Cat.
It'd be amazing because to this day, the Tina death in the original film is my favorite of all time.
I liked the reimagining with Julie, with Miko watching.
That was good too.
I love that.
Yeah, where he's dragging her across the ceiling, and did you ever play Skin the Cat?
Yeah. Speaking of which, just real quick, for any of the viewers that didn't know, there is a perk on the Indiegogo campaign that is the digital download pack. One of the things included in that is a specific that I cannot put on YouTube because YouTube already struck it down and said blocked worldwide. There is a specific commentary of Wes Craven's New Nightmare featuring Miko and Vince and Renee and myself and Fuego. So Miko actually did a commentary of New Nightmare, and he had more than a couple of really cool stories, including my favorite, talking about what happened one time when he was stuck in the grave being pulled down by Freddy. Now, that was a fantastic story.
Wait a sec. Now, on the YouTube video, was it pulled down because you were actually showing New Nightmare on the screen?
Because we had audio. Not New Nightmare. We just had the audio, and they clipped us for the audio.
Yeah, that'll do it.
But the digital download pack, you get it. You get to watch it.
Rex, ladies and gentlemen, there is the Rex. Now, tell us the story about this Rex, Miko.
This one's fake. That's not even the real one. This is the real one here. This has the slashes. Damn, no, I'm kidding. They're both real. I'm doing a thing. We got the two clean ones and the one slashed one. So
now,
lucky. It's lucky I was here visiting my mom for Thanksgiving because she keeps the memorabilia.
She's the guardian of the guardians. I guess
so, yeah.
Very cool. Now, how many of those did they have on set? I would imagine quite a few.
Yeah, some were destroyed. I don't know the exact number, but I know we ended up with the 3, thankfully.
Interesting. Yeah, and you, Cecil, were able to get a few Rex sort of replicas made, which
we had a lot of really high quality pictures taken to kind of recreate it.
Indeed. Right. Shout out to Miko's mom playing clutch position there, sending over the high res pictures for us to be able to make some really good replicas.
Now, Miko, what does your mom think of Dylan's? I keep going into Jeff Goldblum for some. Miko, what does your mom? Yes, mom.
It's pretty good.
Yes. What does your mom think of Dylan's new Ninghtmare?
Oh, she's a sweetheart. I love my mom. She's just proud of anything I do. I think
sweet.
she's excited for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, also, I noticed too, just to mention to 137 people watching, there is a perk on the campaign as well, and I believe there is. I believe Cecil can let me know if I'm right. I believe there's still one available if you want to actually be in the movie. Now, not physically, but through a photograph, which would be in the form of a headshot. Cecil, I believe there were 6 opportunities for that, and 5 of them have been taken. I think there's still 1 left. Is that correct?
Yes, there were 5 by themselves, and then 2 as add-on perks. No one had done the add-on perks, so I deleted those just so people could see them without having to be add-on perks. So there is now a 6th, 1 more slot to actually be in the movie. We can't say how that's going to happen, but one of the people that actually became an executive producer actually suggested this as a perk. They were like, hey, if this kind of scene is in the movie, you can get some people on as pictures. And I was like, I don't have something quite like that, but I do have something else that would work in the same vein. So that's what we're doing.
Very cool. So if that interests you folks, feel free to check out the perks. Again, I mean, the perks are really good. I mean, this is like, I've always been impressed, and if I wasn't in the movie, I would certainly be donating to it. Let me see here. Lee Bowers says, awesome. I remember watching Miko on Wes Craven's new Ninghtmare and Kindergarten Cop. Miko, what's your favorite line from Kindergarten Cop? Somehow I have a feeling
I know which one isn't your favorite, Miko.
Yeah.
Big booty bitches.
Yeah.
If you had said that instead, oh my God, golden.
That was deleted, but
it was in the outtakes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. What's a line or a fond memory that, because you obviously were very young, but what is a memory when you think of your experience with Arnold on that film? What's the first thing that comes to mind, or the thing that you remember the most?
Or do you remember it?
That too.
I remember playing Game Boy a lot. I remember some of the sets. Arnold was really cool. I think at the end of filming, or near the end, he bought Sony Walkmans for every kid in the class, which at the time were like iPods or iPhones or something. That was the hot ticket. I had that thing for years. It was really cool to say,
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, these headphones, this media player. Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger got that for me,
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome.
Well, just like Wes setting up your Civilization game.
Yeah, SimCity. The first time.
Oh, SimCity, right.
First time I ever played SimCity was at a pre-production get-together at Wes's house for New Nightmare, and in retrospect, I probably was just an annoying kid. Like, he set me up on the computer and was like, how do you build this city? Like, I need more money for the thing.
Right.
And he's probably trying to talk to people, but he was super sweet. He took the time and was showing me how, and he was such a nice guy.
It's ironic, isn't it?
Cool.
Because he was such, he's responsible for arguably 2 of the most iconic horror characters in Freddy and Ghostface, and yet he was one of the sweetest, nicest, unassuming men that you could ever meet.
Gentle.
Yes.
Yeah, very soft-spoken.
Yes.
He had a real economy of words. He didn't say a lot, and he didn't say it loudly, but the things he did say were effective and carried a lot lot of weight.
That's economy really cool. Of words. I like that phrase, Miko.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I stole that from somewhere else. I didn't make that up. I heard it and I was like, ooh, I like
my
that.
video's being taken down.
Pass it along to you.
No, the video's being taken down right now for copyright. Let's see here. Jason Greer sends in a super chat. Thank you, Jason. Much appreciated. Will there be any more new perks in the next couple of weeks, Cecil?
I responded with, what are you looking for? Because if you have ideas, let me know.
Dude, there's so many props for that is amazing. All the stuff you came up with. It's super clever. And it's all really cool stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Like it doesn't feel there's a lot, but it doesn't feel overdone.
No.
I think
it's just a lot of options. It's kind of like the California Pizza Kitchen menu. There's a lot of pages, so you have
but
a lot
you get
of
exactly
choices.
what you want out of it.
That's what I was aiming for. Yeah,
that's great.
Aaron Keller sends in a super chat. Thank you, Aaron. Aaron, I believe, is a Freddy Krueger cosplayer as well. Miko, is Robert aware of Dylan's new Nightmare?
That's a good question. I don't.
Miko,
know.
you're his best friend. Right?
Yeah. Let me shoot him a text and find out.
You're his agent.
Yeah, I don't know. I tend to think not, but who knows?
I know that
if I happen to run into him at a con, I would totally give him the heads up of kind of what's going on. He might think it's cool. I don't know, but we haven't crossed paths in a while.
Well, if you do, I'd totally love to talk to him, because if he has any sort of pointers or suggestions, because it's the nuances, right? I totally be down for that. I know that some people because I've been tagged in tweets. Tagged, is that the right word for?
I guess so.
Tweets,
yeah,
I guess.
mentions,
added or whatever.
Yeah,
I've seen a few of them out there.
Yeah, and from people who have also added Robert Englund. Now, whether or not he looked at that or whether he's looking at his Twitter feed himself, I get the sense that he is. He might have seen it and thought, oh, what's that? And maybe, although I don't know. It is actually a really good question.
I'm sure he's tagged in a million things a day.
Well, that's just
it. Just depends on like if it catches him when he's scrolling. If he happens to be on at that time and sees it, and then is curious enough to dig and find out.
That's right.
Very possible.
So you haven't gotten any text saying, "Hey, what's this bullshit?" Like,
no, of course not. No.
Okay, cool.
Mike Cornelius. Am I saying that right? Yes, Cornelius. I think I'm saying that right. Sorry, guys. I'm reading off my phone here because I have several different monitors up. Have you guys made a pitch to the to the Craven estate when they were taking pitches for a new Freddy film? The group of people, especially Dave as Freddy, would make for a badass feature film.
I have an answer for this.
All right, there you go.
Believe it or not, you guys don't even know I have an answer for this.
I don't.
I do have an answer for this, and my answer for this is I cannot answer this.
Whoa, that's curious. I feel like we kind of started this whole ball rolling before the news came out that
I agree with you, but I don't.
Okay, is that accurate? Like, okay.
Well, because
let's just say that there's someone on the team that
now
has access to WB and may or may not have something.
Just kind of put the word out.
Right.
That's kind of cool.
I know. I guess I should give you that update off camera, Miko.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Curious.
What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought.
We're all like thinking, wow.
I know.
Well, you know what?
Miko,
but you know what's interesting is that you, I remember that. It looks like you're farting is what it looks like. No, I'm talking to Miko.
Is that better?
I'm balancing. I'm just being silly. And while I'm farting.
That's that smell. Hey, no, because you're right. Because in September, news dropped that the rights for Elm Street had gone back to the Craven estate, and I sent Cecil the article on that, and Cecil was like, "Oh shit, that's kind of interesting." But you're right. I mean, it does feel like I don't know. I mean, I know that the latest I believe is that the estate is interested in hearing pitches in regards to feature films, but they're also interested in hearing pitches in regards to a potential HBO Max series. And
I watched the eyebrows. Sorry.
That's okay. I think I already know this. I think I know who it is on the team that yeah. People are so funny. When I was at Warner Brothers,
Rex.
It is Rex.
It's Rex. He's got that access.
Yeah, exactly. When I was at Warner Brothers a couple of weeks ago, I had people being like, "Tell them to release the Snyder Cut." I'm like, I don't like. What are you talking about? Anyway, so but no, the I believe they're taking pitches for feature films and a potential HBO Max series. And my first thought was because of the way Dylan's new Nightmare is, There's a lot of potential there for something like that. I don't know. It's interesting.
I agree.
It's
Miko, do you think there's potential for it? Let me ask you this. And again, this is from no knowledge. We don't know what's going on at all, right? But if you had your druthers, would you rather see Dylan's New Nightmare be a series or a movie? Because I have an answer, and I might not agree with Dave on this. But Dave, check your Facebook messages.
I just saw it here. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting question. I think it depends on where the story's going and how it's structured. Because if that kind of dictates a movie or a series. I kind of like the series idea just because it's kind of more novel. I know wasn't there Freddy's Nightmares? There was a show.
In the 80s.
There was. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, and Fuego and I are going to be dropping a review next week where we reviewed, there were 7 episodes that actually had to do directly with Freddy. The rest
Really?
were all non-Freddy stuff.
It was kind of like
Friday
a
13th
Tales from the
series.
Crypt kind of thing.
Yeah, it was an anthology series, and
Yeah.
only 7 of the 44 episodes had to do with Freddy. The
Interesting.
rest were just Freddy being there as the crypt keeper.
Yeah, intro
and
to
like
his
intro
nightmare
and outro, that kind of
And then
thing.
it was like a Twilight Zone kind of thing. But then
Exactly.
7 of them he was in. He's like, here's my
7 of
nightmare,
them-
and I'm in it.
Well, yeah, 7 of them. It was just like, let me tell you the story about this medium.
The time I
thought
killed
she
these
could channel
That's
this
right.
ghost. Like, yeah, one of them is about a medium that's a fake medium, but Freddy's like, bitch, I'm gonna make you channel me whether you like it or not.
Oh, that's
So-
kind of cool.
And I
There,
think
there was actually all 7 of them would have made for legitimately good Freddy movies.
Wow.
We're excited as hell to do this review.
Well, I think
That's cool.
that's largely probably why Freddy's Nightmares, and it was towards the end of the decade as well, but I think that's probably why it ultimately failed in the end, because it really, by and large, didn't really have anything to do with Freddy, and I think people felt sort of, a bit gypped by that. But you're right. There was a series, and my first thought when I heard that was, because I know the potential and a lot of the things that, Cecil, you've discussed in regards to the potential of Dylan's New Nightmare and where that could go. That was my first thought. That doesn't mean that something like this couldn't exist as a feature film. I think it could, but as much as people don't necessarily want, I know some Freddy, series, but at the end of the day, winning solves everything. And if it's good, and if it's scary, and if it's like, oh, this is, then nobody gives a shit that it's, you're watching it on your phone or your tablet, because if it's good, then that's all that matters in the end. So, yeah.
So
it's
I'll
interesting.
jump in and say this. I think that it could definitely go either way. It is currently planned as a 4 to 5 part series, if all goes perfectly,
Right.
which would then encompass a full-length feature's worth of material. So I do think that it would work both as a full-length feature or as an episodic thing where each one was 20 to 30 minutes long, and I would basically just write beyond the 5 that I have right now and go to 10, because I think they would probably do a 10 half-hour episodes. But now we're in the realm of, does a half-hour episode feel enough like a Freddy thing, or is it too truncated to feel Freddy? And so do we need to make it 5 50 to 60-minute episodes instead to really build the atmosphere that Freddy really deserves?
I think that's that is a good point. I think, listen, in terms of episodic TV, you have an opportunity, again, to really, because you're telling a story over the course of, let's say the first season, is 8 to 10 episodes, because you're telling one cohesive thing over that time, you're building to something that is really climactic towards
I already
the end.
know what that would be too, by the
Right.
way.
And when you look at something like Stranger Things, granted they're about an hour long, every episode, it's like at the end of each episode, you're like, fuck, man, I gotta find out what happened next. Like they're visual page turners. And I think if a Freddy series was sort of like that, in terms of it's creepy, it's eerie, some shit goes down, in each episode, but at the end of the episode, you're like, fuck, what's going to happen next? That's where you hook people. I think there's potential there for something like that. I don't know, Miko, do you see potential for something like that in terms of a series regarding?
Yeah, I'm more intrigued by the series idea just because we've seen 7, 8 movies.
Right.
Not that the franchise it deserves another full feature.
Right.
But I think at least from what I've seen so far, where we're at, I think a series is more interesting at this point. Right. Not to say that couldn't change, but yeah, I like the. I'm always of the mindset of leave them wanting more, and I think we have like a really succinct, nice thing right now, and I think it's gonna come in quick with a few punches, and be like, holy crap, that was awesome. Yeah, where's the rest? I don't want this to be over, and I think the idea is to continue to do that.
Yes,
Agreed.
I agree 100%. And when you have the television, quote unquote, platform. Well, I guess HBO Max would actually be TV, but I think you can get it as an app now, or eventually, because I don't think it's actually available yet. But at least I don't think. But anyway, when you have the TV format, you have opportunity to really build, mythology and build sort of characters and really get your audience to care about those over the course of. I mean, even if each episode was half an hour, if you've got, 8 episodes, that's a 4-hour movie, essentially.
Yeah.
So
two Ninghtmare movies is the way I would look at it.
Exactly. So there's the potential is there. And any news, Cecil, on the psychiatrist? The what I was.
No news yet. We put a plan into effect when we were out there. So I haven't heard back. I believe that was in connection with Nora. I'm trying to make that happen. No, you can look. We haven't announced what the deal is, but yes, there is a bit of casting that we are trying to do for a role of a psychologist.
I'm sorry if I let the cat out of the bag and that.
It's okay. We don't know. We don't know who's or what's or why's or anything necessarily.
Okay. It's pretty fun though. It's cool. It makes sense.
All right. Sorry. All right.
I do have a new announcement. We are seeking a new Freddy.
Hey, so kind of left field here, but so because I was home for Thanksgiving, my mom found some old pictures that she showed me earlier, and so I told her not to put them away because I thought you guys might want to see. They were from the set.
Yeah, let's do it up. Let's do it up.
I don't remember why or how, but there I am with a monkey.
What?
Yeah.
This fucking monkey on the new Nightmare set?
I think it might have been, they might have been filming something next door, or like, that's my grandma in the background.
That is amazing, dude.
Yeah.
I love your grandmother's Bill Cosby sweater.
Oh, no. It is, too. Wow.
Got the monkey with the pudding pop. That's crazy. What a wow. Exclusive.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome.
And then we got,
that's great.
This was the big, so like in the end, in the hell thing where we're like sliding and it's out of the big Freddy mouth into the city. That was like a practical prop thing they set up. So I took a picture in a chair next to it. Oh yeah, it's on the poster. The glare is.
That's all right. I can see it.
We can see it.
Yeah.
It's so weird to think that that's a practical thing that you're in front.
Yeah, and like, what did they do with it? They probably had to just destroy it. It was so cool. Imagine having that like the side of a building or something.
Yeah, literally. House. So you can see in this poster here, the Freddy mouth is in this Dylan's New Nightmare poster because it was so cool.
Oh yeah.
Dylan, this is Dylan versus Rex, or Freddy versus Rex, rather, with Dylan behind Rex. This is I commissioned this as one of the posters because that was one of the most amazing, interesting ideas for me.
Pretty dope, dude.
Yeah, it's so
Freddy Krueger fighting a Tyrannosaurus, like
exactly. And I was like, this is what Dylan dreamt about every night. We needed an actual representation of this. And look how good you look, Miko. behind Rex right there. How dope is that?
cheering him
I
on.
fucking love the
Yeah,
pajamas.
in
Cool,
the
man.
actual pajamas.
See,
too.
like crazy badass ideas like that are what sold me on this. Like I know we can't quite achieve that in the short, at least not the first one.
we have animated ideas, Miko.
Yeah, but the way the way you have it all plugged in, man. Like I love that. I love the creativity.
Well, that's again. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I agreed was because of the talent involved and the commitment level to it was just it's those tiny nuances and details that continue to move you forward and continue to allow you to have confidence in what is being essentially put together. So a very generous super chat just came in from Dreadmem77. Dreedmem77.
Holy shit!
Damn, holla.
Woo!
So I have to like take off some clothes.
Yeah,
or
we got to
something?
put that towards the film.
That is
Thanks,
for
bro.
that is for the strip poker version of Dylan's New
Yeah.
Nightmare, which is currently being produced by Hasbro. No, Miko, what
Those
inspired
questions are for you? Yeah.
what inspired you to choose acting as a career, and what kind of hobbies and interests do you have outside of acting?
Kicking my ass in Mario Kart is one.
Oh, that's easy. I
Fuck
can
you,
do that with
easy.
my eyes closed.
God damn it! You son of a
I was
bitch!
all
You just
hype. I thought I
crushed
was
me.
gonna have some
You
competition.
crushed me. I could have
Yeah, we had a good
swore.
one.
I could have swore you said, that was fun because you were actually a bit of a challenge. But no, that's all out the window now.
Yeah, well, the first race was pretty good.
Oh, but
then I
after
figured,
that, then, you son of a bitch.
We'll have a
Oh,
rematch eventually.
just wait, you son of a bitch. When we get to filming,
That's my
Oh.
game, man. Can't mess
I
around.
finally
with Mario
beat
Kart.
Zelda though. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I go into Miko's room and he'd just be playing up the brand new Zelda game that came out, and I'm like, motherfucker, I want. Every time I'd go in and be like, let me just watch this for a minute,
That's
and then I'd
awesome.
go back to setting shit up.
So
Okay, so to answer the question, then.
yes,
sorry.
I didn't really have a choice when I started because I was a baby.
Right.
I grew up with it. I really didn't know any different. It was kind of surreal, I think. I was probably new Nightmare age before I really kind of understood that it was a job that not everybody had, and it was kind of a unique thing.
Right.
And then just as far as hobbies and stuff go, I like rock climbing. I got into drones recently, the past
Very
few
cool.
years. So I fly drones, and nothing too crazy.
Flies drones over the
Doing
White
burpees
House.
before takes.
What's that?
To doing burpees before takes.
Yeah, well, I was trying to stay fit, man. When we filmed that, I wasn't like prepared at all. So
You were good, man. Well,
That helped, though.
burpees
That was
between
more
takes.
of a-
That was awesome for your intensity, though. Like that's what I loved seeing as a director. Like seeing you, like when you were like. And here's the thing: a lot of directors might be embarrassed by a moment like this, but I'm gonna wear it on my sleeve because you were just straight up. You're like, "Hey guys, I'm doing burpees over here. Can we be ready to roll as soon as I jump into the bed?" And I'm like,
there was
shit,
a few
he's
takes
right.
where I felt like we were farting around. I'm like, okay, we farted around for the first few. Let's
No,
get
but
it
that's
dialed in on this
but,
one.
But I'm
Yeah.
I'm still trying to make sure I learn.
That's
from
always
all
how
the
it goes.
people.
I mean, there's always that.
But that's the thing. I'm not the kind of guy that's like I can't learn or take advice or anything. Like, yeah, if my main actor's like, hey, yo, can we do this? I'm like, fuck yeah, we could be doing this more efficiently. Let's do it more efficiently. And we did it more efficiently.
No worries. And I'm sure there's going to be times where you're like, hey, I know you think that's working. It's not really. Can you try this? Because it looks different on this side of the camera,
Sure,
whatever.
Sure. But
like
but
you
I
said
love
earlier,
I love that
collaboration.
you're willing. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely,
Collaboration.
yeah.
I love that you're willing to be open and like that. And like, that's awesome because, other actors might, just shut down and be like, okay, whatever, and not say anything. And then they turn in a lackluster performance as a result,
Right.
and like, I would much rather have an actor that's like, yo, hey, can we do this? It's going to help me deliver a better performance.
100%.
And it's
I
like,
don't know.
yeah, let's
I
do
don't
that.
know if it was. I don't know if it was optimal. I forget if we did an alternate with or without it, but I just felt like the reason I even did that was I thought if I had the physicality, then the performance would just be like the fear would be there because the heart rate would be elevated. Like the body would would create the situation, not try to like come at it from the mind or whatever. So
I mean,
yeah. So just so you know, that teaser when Miko wakes up out of breath, he's literally just finished doing like 10 burpees just off camera.
Now,
So,
and then I held my breath too because
did you really? Yeah.
Because then I wanted that like kind of gaspy.
Now,
when you first wake up, the sleep paralysis kind of thing.
For those who may not know what a burpee is, Cecil.
Well, yeah. Ask the guy that's obviously in the best shape.
It's like,
I
was just trying to get my heart rate up. It's the quickest way possible. It's like a push up, and then you jump up, touch the ceiling, touch the floor, do a push up.
Because you're the director. You're the director. That's why I'm asking you.
You're adorable, Dave. You're adorable.
No, it's because you're the director. I'm just saying. All right. Okay. Fine. I'm fired again.
You're double fired.
Double fired. Let's see here. There was a question. Hang on a sec. Zach Axiola says, this one's for Miko. Which of the Robert Englund Freddy films? I think there is only. Oh no. I guess there is.
There's one non-Robert Englund
there is
Freddy
the remake. Fair enough. Which one of the Robert Englund films, Freddy films, do you consider to be the best and the worst?
My favorite is 6. It's always been.
Wow.
What?
I just want to be an asshole.
Oh my god! You got me there, dude. I was gonna clip that and send it to Cody Leach on repeat.
Sure. Yeah.
Send it to Cody Leach on repeat. He would literally just kill himself over and over again if he could.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So I guess least is probably 6. I'm due for a rewatch, to be honest. I'm most familiar with 1, 3, and 7 because those are 7 obviously because I was in it, but right. The 1 and 3 were my favorites. So I probably 1. Just the OG is usually it sets the tone and everything's based off of that and whatever thing it is. So
do you ever revisit your old films?
Oh, not any more than I have to.
Right. No, I get it. Yeah.
It's cringy. I'm as much as I love the teaser and I enjoy it, I pick it apart and then I'm like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have done the burpees or I would have done this or that. Right. I feel like,
that's something I've had to learn as a director too.
Like, honestly, I'm super stoked about this, but I'm also terrified because like with most things, I watch it once and then I'll be like, huh, okay. It's not for me. It's for everybody else now. I'm not going to think about it because it's done, good, bad, indifferent. So
gotcha.
If Miko could, he would do 50 takes and be able to check the monitor in between each one.
Right. Yeah.
And yet each one he would hate more than the last just because he got to see it.
Yeah.
But no, that's the nice. It's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
Because it's an actor that's a perfectionist and he wants to deliver the best performance. The thing is, he doesn't realize that even what he considers a lackluster performance is still a really damn good performance. So right. It's not. I'm never going to take anything that he feels is below his bar. I'm always going to defer to Miko and what he's comfortable with. But at the end of the day, at the end of that recording for the teaser, we all were like, I think that was the best take. And Miko said, yeah, I think that felt good. And that was the take that we ended up using.
There was a couple that I liked, and I'm happy with it, with the one we went with.
I think it looks good. I think it does. I got asked, what was this? This was maybe a week or so ago. I was doing a live stream and somebody asked me, or maybe it was just the other day. Fuck, I don't know. They asked me, what have I think it's because I've been asked this a couple of times. Is there anything I'm doing in preparation for Freddy? And one of the things that I'm actually really, and the short answer is no, other than to understand the mind frame and the approach that I'm going to take. But the other thing is that I'm actually really looking forward to getting lost in the makeup. Because I can do screen tests.
I think that's going to help.
And you bang on, buddy.
Because that's going to be fun, man. Kind of jealous.
Oh,
because method, Dave. You could be method. We can only refer to you as Freddy when you're in makeup and stuff.
Yes. And
call me Freddy, bitch.
Because it's one of those things where, it's true. Once that level of makeup goes on, and we're not even talking about a mask. I mean, we're talking about your entire identity being transformed. It's not something that I can, in a moment's notice, take off to excuse myself. It's a process to have the makeup removed and put on. So when that makeup goes on, the silicone masks are the best you can get before what I'm about to get. Because the silicone masks, you know, you put them on, they mold to your face, and you can do this. But I'm about to have makeup actually put on my face where it is all me. But to be able to get lost in that and to look in the mirror, you know, and really sort of start to kind of become that character and to work alongside Miko and you know, and really kind of find that sweet spot, you know, and is just, it's that's what I'm looking. I think at that moment, once the makeup begins to go on, there's going to be this fast track of sort of like, whoa, like I'm just suddenly going to feel like I'm him. You know, I can't explain it. It's an intuitive sort of feeling that I have. And I'm really excited about it. Really, really excited about it.
Yeah, I'm hoping you kind of freak yourself out when you look in the mirror for the first time in your whole getup. Be like, oh shit, I'm not looking at myself anymore. I'm looking at Freddy.
Love it.
You know, let's
right.
do it.
And any sort
It's
of
gonna
like,
be cool.
Yeah, you'll hear a lot of actors say that, you know, any sort of insecurities they may have had to do something or to make a creative decision
Melt away.
As themselves melt away because they are no longer themselves. And that is true. I mean, that's 100% bang on. Let's see here. What's our time? How are we doing? Are you guys okay? Or
I'm good.
I'm good. I was going to go grab another drink and maybe take a little pee break, but if you guys can fill the gap, I'm good. I'm having fun. This is a lot of fun. I appreciate you, Miko, taking the time and giving your perspective on a lot of this stuff.
Happy to be
I've been
here.
enjoying the hell out of this.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure, man.
I'll be back. You guys
All right.
talk amongst yourselves.
I'm gonna tag out and do the same when you get back. So.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I'm
gonna tag out and do the same when you get back.
Okay.
I'm gonna tag out right now, and then no. Let's see here. Kevin Fishgall says, Miko, in Mercury Rising, what was your motivation or direction for playing a child on the spectrum? On the spectrum, period. P.S. You did a very good job.
Thank you. That I think was the hardest role I ever played. We prepared for months beforehand. I'm sorry, just rereading the question.
That's okay.
Motivation or direction. Yeah, it was a lot of work to like find exactly who Simon was. I think it started as one thing, and then pieces were kind of added and taken away as time went on. And then once I was like confirmed that I got the role, it filmed in Chicago, and there was a doctor based out of Chicago who was world-renowned expert on many forms of autism, and I worked with him and some coaches just to really make sure we were like doing everything accurately and really kind of dialed in the character. It was really fun. I'm my own worst critic, but I am kind of proud of that one. So I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a thanks, Kevin. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that movie in years, but I remember when it came out because it was 98, wasn't it? 98, 97, 98, I think.
Probably about something like that.
Something like that.
I don't know exactly. Yeah, I'd have to look. It
was somewhere around there. And I remember when that came out because I was in 98. I would have been 19. So yeah, that was. Yeah, and I think weren't you nominated for a Saturn Award for that? No, sorry, not a Saturn Award, a Young something
Artist Award. Yeah,
Young Artist Award. That's it.
Like
Saturn Award. What am I saying?
Yeah. No,
Saturn Award. Yeah, you're playing an autistic child in space. That's what it was. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was nice. I think I won that year.
Yeah. Travis Lauderbow, am I saying that right? Lauderbow, maybe? Miko, how clearly do you remember playing Gage in Pet Sematary?
I was 2, man. I don't remember like anything from it, and everybody wants to know, and I want to know just as much as everyone else. But I was a baby.
You said something funny to me when we were having dinner. You're like, on your Instagram, when you post anything that has to do with like Gage or whatever, it's like everybody's like, yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
I
and then-
post my baby pictures. Everybody eats that shit up. I'm like, hey, this is what I'm up to. They're like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, whatever. Fuck off. Just
But I get
show
it.
us
I get it. It's it's funny.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I have like memories of memories or like picture memories because it's been such a big part of my life.
Right,
A lot of it's been drilled in over the years.
100%.
But
and then you have
how
to
much of that is like genuinely accurate? I would probably say not much.
You know what? That's a really good point because I was just you made a really good point that because you were so young, very early on, are the memories you have organic memories, or are they sort of like memories now because of all the photos you see and the, you know, and they're sort of almost,
it's like a copy of a copy of a copy.
Yeah.
The information's still there, but is it the original?
That's
like,
interesting.
You know,
what do you remember? What do you remember from Full House?
A bit more.
Yeah.
That was fun. I just remember those. I think my first time on like sitcom, and it was curious how it looks like a house and the lighting is so specific. It looks, you know, perfect from that one angle, from the fourth wall.
Right.
And then you walk behind it and it's like plywood and there's like gum and graffiti and markings and whatever else on it. And, you know, wires and cables. And that was kind of funny. The stairs to the house that went up to nowhere that just came right back down on the backside, but didn't look near as nice, you know. I remember playing Pogs, because Pogs were like the hot thing around then. With Jodie Sweetin, I think.
Pogs.
And
Pogs were little
discs.
They were,
that's right.
This
that's
terrible trendy thing.
Right.
They were like, I guess it started in Hawaii. They were like milk carton discs, and you would throw like a metal one or a plastic one. It was called a slammer. It was like jacks or something.
Okay,
You try to flip them. And then it was like gambling for kids because you could like, oh, I won, so I get your Pogs. And then click. It was terrible. Why are we talking about it? It was the worst fad. It was awful.
You go to the bathroom or like whatever you need to do. I got something I need to say about Fuller House when you get back. It's just this funny thing that my girlfriend and I noticed.
Really?
We couldn't. I've never laughed. I don't think I've ever laughed so hard in my life. And she was laughing, which was making me laugh. It's probably not going to be nearly as funny to you because it's way after the fact. But anyways, yeah. Do
you want to tell me or should I go first?
No, go first, because it'll take me a few seconds. Okay.
So just real quick as an update, Dave, that last Be in the Movie spot is officially gone.
Cool.
During the stream, someone went ahead and picked it up, and
awesome.
Our guy that we were talking about beside the time said that he'll likely be picking up that Freddy Krueger perk next week.
Wow.
So yeah, he's very excited about my response.
He's all in.
He is.
Well, listen, if this young gentleman is watching, he may not be, but if he is, or he's watching after the fact, I'm not a producer on the film, but on behalf of the entire cast and crew, I think I can safely say thank you very much, because, you know, that will only help us to deliver the level of production value and film to the fans that we want to do, and that's important, because making movies isn't easy, and it isn't cheap, and it can be tricky. So now, Miko, in case you are just joining us or are returning from a break yourself, he's just excused himself to take a little bit of a pee break, I think, and grab something to drink. And of course, Rex is filling in for him. Now, Rex, tell me, now when you were on set, Rex, what exactly was it? What was your favorite moment from the set, Rex? Fascinating. That is unbelievable. Now, we have a question here from the chat room. Rex, tell me, were you jealous of your brothers and sisters who were also getting screen time, or did you not care about them? Fascinating. Rex, you are unbelievable. I feel like Trump. Unbelievable, amazing, tremendous. Jason.
Perfect timing.
Jason Greer is like, Pogs!
Yeah. Throwback. Yeah, anyone that likes Pogs will definitely remember Magic cards as well.
Oh.
I was
cool.
I was into
That had
Magic.
depth to it.
Yeah, I got out of the stuff just before Pogs, but I was big into Magic.
Big into Magic. Okay,
Yeah.
so my Fuller House hilarious. So obviously, being a young kid growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, I watched Full House. I remember Miko's episodes very well. And it was your, I mean, a lot of people watch that show, right? Okay, so obviously in 2016, they're back with Fuller House on Netflix. That's great, cool. So one night, my girlfriend and I decided to watch a few episodes, purely for nostalgic purposes. I mean, that seems to be the era we're in now, right? Nostalgia. So we're watching...
Member berries.
100%.
I remember.
100%. So we're watching a couple episodes, and I forget what's... I did a video on this on my channel, and I couldn't stop laughing. There's an episode, I forget what season it is. Season, I don't know, 3, episode 7 or something, I don't know. Anyway, the gist of the episode is... there's a main sort of theme, and then there's the subplots, right? And one of the subplots is Danny Tanner is, because he's in this episode, he's still hosting his show in San Francisco, which is unbelievable. But anyway, so he decides to have a colonoscopy done on air because he feels that
This is on Fuller House?
This is on Fuller House, yeah.
Jesus.
So, no, yeah.
Boy, they're really plumbing the depths for some stories.
I see what you
It's
did
weird
there.
how wholesome the original show was, and now they're doing like dirty jokes and stuff.
Well, this show
but with the
is-
same tone,
Yeah.
the retro.
Yeah.
It's actually not that
Curious.
far off from the most recent South Park, which was one for the ladies, where it was all about fecal transplants.
Oh.
Yeah,
but
that was a good episode too.
that was
So
hilarious.
It's funny. Yeah.
That's South Park. You expect that. But
Yeah.
so anyway, to prepare for a colonoscopy. Now, I don't know if anybody present here has had one, but I've had one. And they often say that the prep is worse than the procedure. And that is absolutely 100% true. Because
True, yep.
during the procedure, they put, a mask on you. You're not completely unconscious, but you're basically unconscious. You're out.
Oh, I
They
was.
whisper sweet nothings in your ear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're probably out for 10 minutes. It feels like 30 seconds.
beautiful.
Dude, I'm telling you, I would totally do that. But anyway, so, and then I'd be fired again. So the subplot of the show is Danny is staying with DJ and everybody and at the house. And there's this scene where, listen, I know it's just a show, but we couldn't stop laughing. I mean, like butt-gusting laughing. He comes from the, so so think of the camera's perspective. They're in the living room, right? So Danny comes from the top of the stairs, down the stairs, right? And DJ is in the living room holding some sort of loofah type thing. And he's running with a jug of, I don't know, X-Lax or something in his hand because he's got to take a violent shit. I mean, let's be honest here, right? So he comes down the stairs and he runs past DJ, picks up the loofah thing in her hand, and he runs into the kitchen, and he's like, not now, I can't talk, not now, and he's running, and then he proceeds, he's about to go into the basement. And Stephanie, who is in the kitchen, turns to her father and says, Dad, that's my room. And he turns to her and says, don't come down for an hour. And then he proceeds to go into the basement. Now that in and of itself, if you're not thinking to, is not funny. But then my girlfriend turns to me and goes, wait a minute. Was he going to take a shit in the middle of Stephanie's bedroom? Why is he going into the basement to take a shit when there's a bathroom upstairs? Like, why is he taking a shit in the
Specifically there?
Specifically there. And we are laughing hysterically. Like, we just couldn't stop. Now, I know that some people have since come forward and be like, well, actually, in the original series, because Joey lived in the basement, there was a bathroom down there. And okay, but still, why use that bathroom? why is he going specifically, if there was, to use that bathroom? And if there wasn't a bathroom, is he just going to take a... Anyways, you had to be there. Like I said, we were busting. Like, we're just laughing hysterically at the absurdity.
Maybe he's just being polite. He's like, I'm gonna blow up the downstairs since no one wants to.
Like, and
that's rude if you do it.
Yeah, either you suffer, Stephanie, or everyone suffers.
yes,
so.
exactly. And his reason was that don't come down for an hour. You know, and so it's like, okay, whatever. Take a shit in the middle of my
bed, right on my pillow.
Yeah, it's just whatever. Like, how could you look at your father, you know, the same way again? Anyway, that was my had to be there Fuller House story. So let's see. Super chat just came in from Ken, the 10, 11, 12, 13th. I think it's Ken the 13th, right? I think that is what that is.
Sounds like it.
Ken 13.
Yeah. At Dave McRae, have you heard of New Nightmare from the Dylan's New Nightmare soundtrack and thoughts on the track? Look forward to the kick-ass Freddy. I have heard of it. Cecil can actually speak to it better than I can because he knows the guys that dropped the track and made the track. Cecil, talk about that.
Yeah, so that is the first of 2 singles that we are making for Dylan's New Nightmare. It is the more hip-hop rock single done by an artist called The Wicked One. And the reason that it kind of came back up this week is not only do we have a special vinyl perk on the crowdfunding campaign for this, it's going to be a dual-sided vinyl. New Nightmare will be on one side, and Another Nightmare will be on the other side, which is done by Chiron, a metal band. And so New Nightmare I actually submitted to a local radio contest called Pladio, which is done by 98 KUPD, which is the largest radio show in Arizona. And it's a spotlight on local talent. And we actually placed 3rd out of 30 bands with this song. So we got to perform it live. We got to, I recorded it. We just put up the episode today where we were reacting to the news as the radio listened to it and gave their thoughts on the track. So we put that episode up today, and then next week we're going to put up the live performance, which we went and recorded that night. We didn't win, but we still ended up getting 3rd overall, and it was a really fun time.
That's awesome.
You get to see the song performed live.
The track is really cool too. I'm glad to know that it's like officially live now, because I think you sent it to me a long time ago, but it wasn't like out or whatever. And I wanted to put it on blast then because it's pretty
good.
banging.
It's pretty fire. Yeah. Like he sent
it
to me, and I was like, dude, this track's fucking fire. And he's like,
Nice.
oh, I was hoping you'd say that. And I was like, yeah, dude, it's really good. It's like it gets you and it grabs you and you can't help it, you know?
Yeah.
Before I get to this other question, I forgot to say too, in regards to my Fuller House story. I know, here I go again. Was he gonna wipe his ass with the loofah? Is that why he took it? Like, think about that. Why is he taking the loofah into the basement? Like, even if
like
he was
rinsing it?
Yeah, like why is he taking the loofah into the basement? Like, what? Like, why is he? Don't come down for an hour. Hey, anyway, fuck. I gotta.
I look. I don't know how bidets work, but do you have to use a bidet?
It's gonna keep you up at night. You're gonna wake up in a cold sweat. Like,
it is.
Like, why was Danny shitting in the basement? Why was Danny shitting in the basement? Why? Why?
Well, I'm just saying, man. Like, I mean, hey, if he's using the toilet in the basement, does he need the loofah? Hey, Danny, use some fucking toilet paper. All right.
Here's
you
my
got like
takeaway,
evidence
Dave.
pinned to the wall with the red string and like connects because if.
Here's my takeaway. My takeaway is you and your girlfriend need a better show to watch.
Hey, it was just a couple episodes. All right. That's funny. Jason Nike Super Chat says, hey, Cecil, are you... Oh, fuck, it's so true.
You want to watch Fuller House, baby? Yeah, let's do it.
How many edibles?
Maybe Danny will have to run to shit again.
What the fuck are we from?
Quality family
Hey, man, what's going
entertainment.
on? Come on,
You
baby.
remember the 90s?
Yeah, I turned you into the most northern southerner I've ever come across.
Come on, man. Let's watch some of that Fuller House shit again.
Maybe
right.
someone will be running to the bathroom and take a shit.
Man, you goddamn right, Danny Tanner getting that little loofah wipe on his ass.
Let's see here. Jason Knight says, hey, Cecil, are you a Friday the 13th fan? If you were to do your own Friday fan film, would you do an original story or would you take off from a previous film?
I responded. I said, I don't know, Jason. I'd have to think about it. But I do honestly. My favorite Friday the 13th movie, controversial as it may be, is the remake. I thought they really just crammed all the best things about the Jason movies into one. That first 20 minutes is the best Jason movie there ever was. Period. But then the rest of it isn't bad. I like they took the best kills from the first 3 movies. I'm a big fan of the guy from Supernatural, Jared Padalecki, even though he recently had some legal troubles. I'm a big fan. So I really liked that. I liked Derek Mears's representation of Jason, where he would run at you and be like, and like, dude, Jason's intimidating enough, but when you add running to Jason, then you're in real fucking trouble. You know what I mean? So
he's a big guy too. He's a big guy.
So I would try and play in the remake world rather than any of the others.
Interesting. If it were me, I would go back, and I know that this probably would never get greenlit because Jason is the brand, and I understand that. I get that from a business perspective, but one of my favorite Friday the 13th films is actually the original. And it's because, although this would be lost now because you can't surprise an audience twice if you're telling the same sort of thing, but I love in the original Friday the slight psychological component that's in that movie. And it's a slasher film first and foremost, for sure, but not knowing who the killer was, the campsite that is, there's nobody there, it's just those 5 people, it's dark, it's ominous, the mood, the atmosphere, you think like
of course.
But I mean, it's essentially like a whodunit. Almost, right? And I can only imagine watching that for the first time in 1980. Of course, I would have been just, 1. But that would have been and the surprise reveal of it, not just who or it being, the surprise reveal being that it was a woman as well. Mm-hmm. And I think going back to the roots and sort of starting there and who Pamela Voorhees was and how that came to be, and then sort of like what they did in Batman Begins, where at the end of the movie you see, the Joker card kind of setting up where where this could go. I think that would be interesting to sort of start way back there. Not everybody will agree with me, but I have an affection for that first movie and sort of the story of where that came from. Not that you asked me my opinion, but I just thought I would.
just based on your tiny little explanation, I actually wouldn't mind seeing a movie where maybe little special needs Jason is a murderer. Like maybe he was evil even way back then, and maybe that's why the kids took him out and dropped him in the lake.
Ooh, adding to the mythology, but making it
That's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. Almost like Sleepaway Camp, but with Jason. Ooh.
They waited for the opportunity where they knew the counselors were going to be off banging, and they're like, let's take him out. Hey, Jason, come out and swim with us in the lake. Right. Come out in the canoe. Whoa. And then they just freaking dump him in. Like, let's get rid of this fucking kid.
And let's not forget that his mother would have been a cook at that time at the camp. So
exactly, preparing their meals. And then they go to the dinner. Right. And they're like, oh, what do we got, Mrs. Voorhees? And they're like, where's Jason? And they're like, we don't know. Right. That could be fucked up shit.
Fascinating. Super chat from Game Night, just supporting the channel. Thanks very much, buddy. Much appreciated. Let's see here. Sarah Carter says, question for all, and don't know if you'll get answering. Or get to answering. Will they be doing any kind of voice manipulation in post-production like they did to England? Well, the answer to that is yes, 100%. But the trick is to find that sweet spot where it's complementing what I'm already doing in the performance. So it doesn't sound like it's processed, because there's a certain level when you start to process or you start to mix and EQ, you can go too deep where it sounds almost, muddy and real sort of lowered and process. So we want to find that sweet spot where it's low, but it's still sort of that Freddy kind of vibe to it. So and that's we're sort of in the middle of doing that now in sort of trial and error. And the Indiegogo campaign teaser was part of that discovery, right? Kind of like, okay, maybe it should be this, maybe it should be that, and kind of playing around with all that. But the laugh you hear at the end of the teaser is me. That's all me. I mean, the whole
Well,
thing is
the whole thing is all you. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole thing is all me. But I just mean that laugh, because that's the most compliments that I've got is on the
laugh. Yeah.
the laugh.
Well,
at the end,
you
so-
do fucking nail the laugh. I mean, the laugh is
Knock it out.
as long as you can do ha 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 ha.
That was pretty
You
good.
know, like,
that was pretty good.
that's
I'm
what I'm saying.
fired. I'm fired.
No, but as long as you can, like, that's the quintessential Freddy laugh. The thing that you have to do is more than just the laugh, because again,
100%.
I'm a 300 plus pound fat director, and I can do that laugh.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have more nuance than that. You have to have more to it than that. You have to be able, and this is something that I praised Dave about in one of my earliest streams about him, is that the reason I really am so impressed by voice actors is because you don't have to just do your character like a lot of people do in movies, regular movies, actors, right? They play one character. As a voice actor, you have to have the ability to play all these different characters and be able to say anything as those characters, right? You can't just have all the phrases that are in the script as that character. You have to be able to say, rubber baby buggy bumpers went to grab the milk from the fucking Walmart and sucked my dick. You know, you have to be able to say that in your character,
Amazing.
as nonsensical as it might be. You have to be able to do that.
I got that in a script today. That's amazing.
Well, I'm pretty plugged in,
Yeah.
you know. But no, that's my point. And so it's not an easy thing to do. And so every line that Dave delivers as Freddy, there's thought, there's processes, there's things that go into it. And that's part of why I wanted to make sure we got you two together. We got to talk about it briefly at the dinner, but I know that, you know, Miko has a lot vested in this project simply because it's his name, you know, above the title or in the
no
title.
pressure, right?
Yeah, but that's, you know, don't worry about that as much, in my opinion. But I get what you're saying, and I get that you want to make sure that everything is done as well as possible. And so that's why I'm like, let's make sure that we're all on the same Freddy page, right? Because that's the biggest piece of this puzzle, is making sure that Freddy is as good as he can possibly be. And so I just want to make sure that us three specifically are on the same page, making sure that Freddy sounds where we are happy with him sounding, because we can't please everyone, guys.
No.
We made the teaser and we had people saying Freddy's too low. We had people saying Freddy's perfect, and we had people saying Freddy's too high. So where does that leave us? Like, what are we supposed to do? We literally cannot please everyone, because there's 3 different camps. So all we can do is make sure that we are doing the best Freddy that we think we can provide to everyone.
100%. And it's, you know, it's one of those things. One of the biggest misconceptions about voice acting is that it has everything to do with the sound of your voice. And although having a nice voice or a soothing voice or a sexy voice or an announcer voice or whatever the case is, can certainly, you know, help depending on the project. This is voice acting. This is not about your voice as much as it's about your performing and acting abilities. You are still performing behind the mic, whether you're doing animation, whether you're doing radio and television commercials, network promos, movie and game, you know, trailers, whatever the case is, you're still performing and acting and understanding and learning how to interpret a script and listening to the director or the producer or, you know, the audio engineer, like whatever the case is. It's vitally important that you understand those nuances about performing, because I say this to people all the time. There are voice actors today with great voices by all measure. He or she, it's got a great voice, who are struggling to make any sort of career out of it. And at the same time, there are voice actors who have seemingly average, everyday voices who are hugely successful. And the reason, by and large, for that discrepancy is because they understand that this is about acting. This is about performing. Like some of the biggest, I've done not, you know, Pixar shit, but in some of the animation that I've done, I've never sweated so much in my life in the booth, because I'm playing it. I'm getting into it. I'm using my body, and, you know, I'm at the microphone. I'm doing this, and, you know, whatever the case is.
Give it your all.
100%.
It is a very physical thing too. People think it's just voice, but to really get the really strong performances, you're throwing and contorting your body potentially, for what the
100%.
scene calls for.
That's right.
It's
Well,
interesting.
you've
A
done
lot of
some
people
too.
don't.
Yeah, well, you've done a
Yeah,
bit
I'm
too,
not
haven't
a
you?
voice
Yeah,
guy in particular, but
Yeah.
I'm familiar. I'm friends with
Yeah.
other people that have done voiceover, and that was a surprise to me to learn that. And it totally makes sense. Too.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge, and that's why there are, there's the misconception. Yeah, again, is that it's you got a great voice. You should get. Well, that can help depending on it, but that doesn't mean that you're going to learn or how to really get into character and
It's
play a
like
character.
it's the instrument, but you can have a whatever that violin brand is that's like so valuable, but if you don't know how to play it, it's not going to be worth anything.
That's
so
right.
It's,
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and I think there are some people, like I come from a family that's very extroverted, and my dad was a radio personality and a journalist and a reporter. And, we come from that kind of a family where we, as in case you haven't noticed, I can talk. So like, we're performers at heart. So to step into this role as Freddy is intimidating in the sense that I want to do it justice. I want to do it justice by Cecil and by you, Miko, and by Vince and by everybody involved and by the fans. But Cecil is bang on, and you learn this very fast when you get into the entertainment industry that, you can't please everybody. I mean, you have to just do your best, what you perceive to be justice to whatever it is you're doing, and let the chips fall where they may, because there's always going to, well, that fucking sucks. I mean, they're always,
Sure.
they're always going to be there, and
Yeah. But if we did something wrong, if there's not any of that, we played it too safe. If there's somebody that
100%.
doesn't quite like the choices that we've made, 100%. I think
as long as we have lovers and haters, then we did something right.
Yeah.
As long as there's not people that are like, it was okay.
Right.
Then we did something right.
Right.
That's a good point too. Yeah.
And
I think we just we're going to bring the best we can in all of our individual areas, and we're all going to help each other and make each other stronger through this. We're not going to just put something out, finish it just to finish it. We're really going to take the time to, is it going to be perfect? No. Is it going to probably have some flaws? Very likely, but it's a labor of love, and we're going to put the best foot forward that we can. And hopefully you like it. And, we're going to have a fun time doing it.
Exactly. And too, it's
beautifully put.
100%. And, it's that thing where no matter who, whether it's Dylan's new Ninghtmare, whether it remains in the fan world, whether Dylan's new Ninghtmare, makes the transition, to something else,
who knows?
If this is it, we're going to have a blast and it's going to be badass. And if that's all it is, I'm cool with that.
Yeah. 100%.
And if something else comes from it too, awesome. We'll cross that bridge and when we come to it. But right now, I'm just going to focus on this and make this the best thing it can be.
Hell
exactly.
Yeah, dude.
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
But no matter who steps into the world of Freddy, I mean, there's going to be, people that love it and people that don't like it. And that's par for the course, Miko's bang on with that. Super chat from Jason Knight says, hey guys, what if Pamela Voorhees buried Jason in a pet cemetery type of place? Sure would explain a lot.
I've actually heard that idea before somewhere. Really? I think at a con, it just kind of been passing. And I read that ahead as well. And it reminded me I like that idea a lot.
That's actually interesting.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I really like that.
Well,
cemetery is it's like time has passed. It's in a different universe or something where it's under the lake.
Interesting.
So
so that's actually part of, on the Horror Show channel this entire time while the campaign's going on, we're doing anything and everything Nightmare coverage. So we just finished the review of the final movie, which was the remake. We are reviewing the Freddy's Nightmares 7 episodes that Freddy's in, but we are also reviewing all of the comic books that Freddy has done, and they have actually touched on this stuff already, or at least partially. So in the Freddy versus Jason, Freddy versus Jason versus Ash they had 2 different comic series that were intended to follow up Freddy versus Jason, the movie. So they were intending to bring Ash into it. And so the first one was just a direct pickup from Freddy vs. Jason featuring the guy and the girl that survived. They get killed very rapidly. But the idea is that the Necronomicon, Freddy steals the Necronomicon and uses it to become all-powerful. And then Jason, it turns out that Jason is actually the very first Deadite. So Pamela used the Necronomicon to raise Jason way back in the day. So that's the idea, is that Jason is actually a Deadite. That's why in Jason Goes to Hell, the movie, you see the Necronomicon, is because they were laying the groundwork for this story idea. So yeah,
I
it's
never
in
saw
there.
that one. I need to.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Cool. Yeah, you got to revisit. But yeah. So and then Freddy versus Jason versus Ash Part 2, which those are the last two Freddy comic book series that we're reviewing. We've done 6 Freddy comic book reviews at this point, and 7 and 8 are the Freddy versus Jason versus Ash series. But the second one is called Nightmare Warriors, where they bring 4 survivors from the Nightmare series and 4 survivors from the Jason series together to fight them. And so it's Alice and Jacob from Nightmare 4 and 5. It is it's Tommy Jarvis and Stephanie, who is the little baby from Jason Goes to Hell, as well as Tina, the powerful one from Jason Part 7. And so it's like 4 from each series fighting to put Freddy and Jason to rest, while Ash is in the mix as well. It gets really crazy and convoluted, but yeah, Jason is a Deadite in that continuity because Pamela used the Necronomicon to raise him all those years ago.
Wow. I did not know anything about that. I'm learning something completely new right now. I had no idea.
Pays to be subscribed to our channel.
Yeah.
Which I am, by the way. Let me see here. Cody Snyder says, Miko, have you ever met Danielle Harris or Alex Vincent? You're probably the 3 biggest horror movie kids ever.
Yeah, they're awesome. I see them a lot at conventions mostly. Alex and I are pretty close. I think sometimes he's on the West Coast. I think we might have gotten together outside of a con once or twice. We always kind of joke that, or I always say he's like my East Coast brother or twin, because we grew up around the same time in horror movies, and I think we even wore the same shirt in 2 different roles. It was like a popular shirt around that time. I think in Chucky he wore a shirt, and I think it's the same one I wore in either Kindergarten Cop or like Full House or something.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I think there's a picture somewhere. Yeah, it's kind of random.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, they're good people.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Did they read the $100 super chat? Yes, we did. Yes, I read it.
Super nice.
Very super nice. And YouTube will take 98% of it. No, I'm just kidding.
30%. The rest 30%. You can put towards the campaign, Dave.
There you go. Yep. It's gonna happen. DMT Infinity says, Dave, what is your number one favorite moment in the first Halloween movie? Oh, geez. Halloween. My number one favorite movie.
You can't escape it, bro. Don't try.
My number one favorite, I don't know, but I love, because I want to get back to what we're talking about. I do love the moment that Tommy says, you can't kill the boogeyman, and the camera rack focuses over Laurie's shoulder, and you see Nick Castle standing there as the Shape. One of my favorite moments. That, and of course, him sitting up behind Laurie and doing the head turn. What I specifically like about that is that they don't rack focus from Laurie to Michael. They keep him out of focus, which was a brilliant creative choice. So there you go.
Can I ask Miko a question real quick, Dave?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So Miko, now New Nightmare was in the area where you actually have a few memories.
Yeah.
Because you've been an actor for for a long time, and you've had some roles that you remember, some roles that you don't. Everyone asks you about Pet Sematary. You were what, 5, 4 during that time?
Pet Sematary?
No, 2.
Yeah, 2. So yeah, obviously you're not going to have those memories, but when it comes to the movies that you do have memories of, You know, do you have one that you go to more often than the others? Is it New Nightmare? Is it Mercury Rising? Is it something else?
In what
do you
sense
have something
that I go to, or just
in a sense,
fondly,
like,
or?
yeah, say nostalgia's sake, yeah.
Yeah, New Nightmare, #1 for sure. Yeah.
What about it? What about it? Because I remember during one of your panels at Mad Monster Arizona, you talked about the fact that you were, I think you said maybe proudest of Mercury Rising because of the amount of preparation that you put into that.
character.
Exactly. Yeah, please.
Sure.
Could you speak to those two things? I thought that was very interesting.
Great question.
Yeah. As far as New Nightmare, I think I was old enough to remember most of it, a lot of it. And Freddy was like a superhero in the 90s. It was a weird pop culture icon. Freddy and Jason. They were on cereal boxes. It was weird because I was kind of too young to watch the movies. I hadn't seen any before that, but I knew the character. I think I'd played a video game, or it was everywhere. You couldn't avoid it. So when I knew I was going to be in one of the movies, I flipped. Like, I was so stoked. And then I think I asked my parents, like, I watched the original. I watched the first one with them. So I knew, like, I had seen one of them at least before we filmed. And yeah, it was just a great experience. Wes was the best director I ever worked with. Sorry, Cecil, but he was amazing.
Look, if I'm gonna be second best,
close second.
yeah. Fucking A, Miko. That's a completely undeserved praise. I should be 20th on your list of people you've worked with.
Yeah, and he had such a great crew, like family put together, and it was just fun. There was no stress, and I remember I had a birthday one of the days, and like they did like a scavenger hunt, and all the crew members had like a different little thing, and they like kind of made it special. I have a lot of
for your next clue, go to your costume designer.
Kind of. It was really cool. Like, they didn't have to do that, that's not. It was really neat, and maybe it was just at that age. I felt like it came across, bro. Like, yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. No, I felt like it came across that you were a genuinely happy kid on set, because you could pull off everything you needed to without seeming stressed or forced or anything like that, like a lot of child actors seem like. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah, and I'm sure there definitely was harder shoots than others. And even on New Nightmare, I guess there was one thing where I was 7. I think I was having a bad day. They scared me, and I was like not having it. I was crying, and I was like, I don't want to act anymore. And of course, like, I did the was it Never Sleep Again documentary, and that's like, we record like hours of footage, and that's the one story they put in, everybody talking about how I was a little bitch that day, crying. And like,
4-hour documentary, and they're like, guys. Here's the story.
And then when people want to talk about it, they're like, yeah, I saw the documentary and it was terrible, and you were like, it was horrible, and you were traumatized. I was like, no, that's not the takeaway from this. That was like one little thing. So much of it was great. So
there's going to be so much material outside of the short now as a result of all this stuff that you're
sure. Yeah.
Hopefully that'll help correct the ships.
That's
because
awesome.
quite frankly, dude, you really did. I mean, look, child actors can be, hit or miss. Terrible. For sure. And I thought, I've always thought everything you did,
by any means,
dude, but you did such a great job. Like,
thank you.
I always, like, again, watching you do your thing and the Never Sleep Again, and then like you had to do your Freddy voice, like, I'm almost there, Heather. You were doing your thing. Like, I was in it, bro. Like, you did a really fucking good job for such a young dude. And like, that's why I was so hyped when you were on board for coming back. I'm like, fuck, like, Absolutely. He doesn't realize it, but like, this to me is like, working on the level of working with, your Paul Rudds, your big guys, you know what I mean? Like, guys that I've wanted to work with for a while. Like, it's really awesome to me. Yeah. And again, I'm biased because it's my project, but at the same time, I'm like, the fact that you are such a good guy, that you are approachable and able to be spoken to about the process, and like you're willing to give your expertise and help me get better as a director and stuff. Like
it'd be weird if I wasn't.
I know, but like,
shooting ourselves in the foot.
I'm still fairly early in this, and I'm just trying to take cues from Vince, because Vince knows what he's doing and stuff. And I'm just
on track, man.
I'm trying.
I've seen early directors I've seen directors with a lot more experience that are not as have the eye that you have. So,
well, I appreciate that more than you know, believe it or not. And quite honestly, I won't go into details because it meant so much to me. But Miko did something very, very sweet. He had a little bit of a present for me at the end of the shoot for the teaser. Yeah. And it was two photos, two photos with some messages on them, and I have framed them, put them up in my house. I'm going to be moving soon, so I'm going to give them a more prominent place.
They're not up on your wall. They're under your pillow, and you know it.
Look, I'll keep them wherever they will be.
As long as they're not on the ceiling, right?
Dude, they're so. Look, and I get the jokes, but they're so energizing to me, because 100%. When he gave them to me, I welled up. Like, I literally almost cried when he gave them to me, and I read them, and I was like, because, I just don't know if Miko knew how much this project really meant to me. And when he gave me those, everything kind of just welled over, and it's like, holy shit, we actually did this. This is going to happen.
It's a good shoot that week.
It really, really, really was more so.
Let's see how this turns out. I may ask for them back.
I mean, that's fine. I've made photocopies, and I'll just
there you go.
Keep them in my room and jerk off to them alone if I have to.
I love the honesty, Cecil. I love the honesty. Yeah. Two questions that I found interesting here. One in particular, which I'll leave second. First one is from Cody Snyder again. It says, is Heather Langenkamp involved in Dylan's new Ninghtmare? Does she know about it?
Contribute to the campaign, guys. Contribute to the campaign is all I can say.
There you go. And Game Night, here's an interesting one, says, what if Miko played himself instead of Dylan? So it's almost like that's like a meta movie.
Meta.
That's like a meta. That's like a meta movie within a meta movie. It's like a dream within a dream almost. That's interesting.
That's very Russian Doll.
But then who would play Dylan?
Maybe,
that would be the weird thing.
Maybe that's at the end of the first season of the HBO Max series.
It's just one level too deep, I think, to make work right.
There's not, like, me as a person wasn't in the original movie, so it'd have to be introduced. Right. That'd be weird.
Right. Yeah, no.
Well, it would really be more of the story of, like, because I've made this very on Front Street. This whole thing, this whole process. We've been recording the whole thing. We've been making episodes on the show throughout the process. So I feel like that would be an episode, like, where Miko would come and be like, you know what, Cecil, I kind of want to be Miko now, so let's change things up. And now it's Miko, and like I'm like,
really heavy notes.
All right, heavy notes. Here's where I think I'd be at this point. Like, I think that he's fighting against Dylan, the Dylan persona at this point. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I would be worried about. Movie. But luckily, Miko has proven himself to not be that guy by any stretch. He's just a guy.
If I play myself, you'll be able to find someone probably a lot better at playing Dylan. So maybe that'll work out.
Well, I already said Haley Joel Osment's my backup.
I agree. I agree with Cecil. I think that's one level. That's one layer a little too deep.
It makes me think of that movie. How do you say it? It's like Sidoche, New York. It was like really artsy from years ago. The writer that wrote Adaptation and Being John Malkovich. There's like this weird
Charlie
story.
Kaufman?
Yeah. So he made this weird movie. It's like the name of a town, New York.
Really?
It's a strange film, but there's like a whole story in there where they're making a movie about making a movie. And then as they're making it, they're like, well, we need to cover this part. So they get another crew to following the crew to make the movie. And then it's like the budget keeps growing until they're like in an airplane hangar, and then it's super weird and like
Wow.
super artsy. But by the end, it's a city that's a studio, so the sky is like Truman Show, and it's just
wicked.
like you said, Russian nesting dolls of crews filming each other. And so like a scene that'll happen early in the film later on will happen again, but there will be actors playing it, filming it. Like it's just this snake. It's super weird, but that's what it made me.
Miko, have you seen One Cut of the Dead yet?
The what now?
One Cut of the Dead?
No, what's that?
Dude, it's okay. So I think it just got released to Shudder. If you have Shudder,
I still need to get Shudder.
Oh, dude, I'll give you my login info. I don't care. It's worth it. So One Cut of the Dead is a Japanese zombie movie where it's about a movie about zombies being made when a zombie outbreak happens. But that's kind of just the first half of the movie, and the rest is just this brilliant deconstruction of the zombie and filmmaking genre.
That sounds cool.
Unbelievable. It's so good, and it really shows where horror cinema can go from here, you know? And so, like, I just love that you're into that because you're bringing a certain level that I don't have. Like, I'm very much on the, you know, give me a good Mike Flanagan movie or a good, you know, Andres Overdahl or, you know, the guy that does It. You know, give me those movies, but you have this sort of more artsy eye, and you can bring that honestly, to the horror genre too.
That wasn't a good movie, but it was interesting. Like,
no, but it's your eye though. It's your eye that you can recognize that there's certain aspects of it that make it interesting, even though all of it doesn't quite get it there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
I'll take it. Thank you.
The world of Elm Street lives in, you know, to be able to approach the world of Elm Street. I mean, okay, let me preface this by saying my favorite Elm Street is the original, of course. And I've grown to really appreciate, although I've always liked it, I've grown to appreciate Freddy's Revenge a lot over the years.
So good.
And I think it's far better than people give it
credit for.
Yeah.
It deserves to be in the top 4 or 5 at the very least.
100%. But I'm all about, like, my Freddy is scary Freddy. I think there should be like a hashtag make Freddy scary again or something like that.
That's what Miko said from the very beginning. That's Miko's position.
100%. And
I don't mind some of the camp a little bit. It's fun, but when it needs to be scary, it should be scary. Like that's the point, you know.
And so what I like about the original so much is that, and what I didn't like about the later films, especially when you get to like 5 and 6, and 4 too, is that
5 still skirts the line. 6 just steps completely.
Yeah, I guess, but 5 is the one where he's force feeding that girl, and that freaks a lot of people out. That kill. That force feeding kill freaks a lot of people out. The kill does, but I don't find it particularly scary. It might be psychologically disturbing, but you can see him. He's going, come on, you know, doing all that. I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Anyway, so, but what I love about the original especially, and I know that with sequels you gotta keep, you know, amping it up, but is Freddy, and you mentioned this too, Cecil, when we talked a while back, is the dream sequences are very much grounded in reality. And what I mean by that, I know that sounds, you know, a bit of an oxymoron, but is in the sense that I believe that these feel like real dreams that people could be having, because the environments are like, dreams are, you tend to dream based on, you know, your subconscious, what you've experienced, symbolism, all that kind of stuff. And these dreams feel very much like something that people would dream. They're not overly sensational locations. They're not overly sensational set pieces. And it feels very much like Freddy is invading your world and your space. And it becomes very uncomfortable. By the time you get to Elm Street, in my opinion anyway, by the time you get to Elm Street, you know, 4 and 5 and certainly 6, he feels like a carnival barker, and the dreams are just like he's almost irrelevant to it. Like it's
Yeah.
It's more into the surreal,
yeah,
instead
it's
of
like a
the
Dahlia
what is
painting.
real and what isn't.
Right. And I much prefer, and I know that Elm Street too. I mean, you look at the opening and you got, the bus on top of the, but that just felt cool.
Dude, that's one of the best
Like, that's-
nightmares in the whole series. Is that bus nightmare?
Oh,
It's so fucking good.
Wild. And the miniature and everything. I'm just like,
Just
fucking
what I
yes.
love is the claw up the seats. Every time he's like,
yes.
ting,
And
ting, and it's like, holy fuck!
I've
like your
settled-
doom is coming for you.
100%. And it's taken me quite a few years to settle on this because the original is still my favorite. And he is frightening in New Nightmare. But
I think he's scarier in 2.
There is something... The makeup job they did on Robert in Elm Street 2 is some of the scariest shit I've ever seen. And just that scene... And I know the logistics of the story and how is he out in the pool and nobody's... I understand there's some continuity, problems. Mm-hmm. Okay, fair. But when the parent comes out and shoots the guy with the or attempts to shoot him with the shotgun, and he just turns like this, he just has that look, and the flames are sort of in the, but just the look and the hook sort of nose, and he's standing there. It's just so bloody scary. I mean, it's just like, who is this guy? Like, you can see the makeup and the wetness to his skin that is glistening in the glow of the flames.
It's the wetness and the sunken eyes in part 2. The sunken eyes in part 2 really, really, really sold it.
And there's so many moments, like when he comes out of Jesse's body and he stands up like this, or when he's in the mirror, and he's laughing, he's like, and he's doing all this, and it's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's the stuff I love, where he's laughing to himself more than the audience. Because
100%.
he's a self-satisfied dream demon at this point, like he really, really has fun with the fucking with his victims.
Yeah.
And I want to play with that. I don't want him to overtalk, but yes, that very much plays a part. And it's funny because I've exposed
it's like masturbatory for him.
A little bit.
100%.
Yeah, a little bit, and we're listen. Listen, what I was going to say is
big booty bitches.
Yeah, big booty bitches.
The first kill is meant to be like a big return to form, like where Freddy does his thing, and he like can almost like, like that kind of thing, where it's been
just that alone.
Long.
Just that alone, I'm going to splice into its own clip, Cecil.
Please do. Like that's what I want. Like Freddy should, he should do his thing and be like, almost like the part 3 where he's like, what a rush,
right.
It's good to be back, that's what I want to go for, because Freddy's more than just a dream demon in the New Nightmare continuity. Freddy is an entity trying to cross into our world. And so that's the nice thing. That's the fun that we get to play with. The dreams, they don't have to be these big storybook dream set pieces.
As if it's almost like a fairy tale.
Right. They're grounded in our reality because it's Freddy in our world. And yes, he's bringing some of his dark magic with him. He's able to manipulate reality as a result. But there are limitations, and the limitations are tied into Dylan and how Miko is going to portray him and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of really fun stuff to play with in this particular part of the story. You know what I mean?
And when you told me that, a bit about that, when you were wanting me to come on board as Freddy, that was also another thing that really excited me, because it's not that I couldn't play Freddy in a Listen, if Warner Brothers wanted me to play Freddy in a I'm not gonna, no, sorry, I can't. I mean, obviously it's an opportunity that would be very difficult to turn down. I mean, let's face it. But in an ideal situation or scenario, it feels good when the creator, the director, the writer, says to you, that, hey, this is the direction that we're thinking of going, and it aligns with what you really are excited about in terms with the character. So when you said that, it was just another sort of checkbox. I was like, dude, that's yes, like, yes, You know, like totally, like bang on.
Yes, Queen. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Miko.
Now, Miko, did you
Slay.
think that this was the best Slay Queen? Did you think that this was the best sort of avenue to bring Freddy back, or were you just kind of like on board for it, or would you have been interested to see sort of a return to the regular continuity as well? Obviously, you have a horse in this game, so
sure,
it's not quite an even comparison, but still,
it's I what I like about it is because the corner that the series kind of painted itself into in 5 and 6, I think it's a nice point to reset that still honors everything before it, where it's not like some that go, you know, so far back and it's like, okay, we're gonna go back. Something did that recently where they went back and did the sequel and acted like all the movies after it didn't happen.
Halloween,
and, yeah,
2018.
Yeah, which I heard was good. Haven't seen it. I'm sure it was effective, but I like that in our case we have the room to play with everything prior. Freddy is still the Freddy we know. It's not some new branch entirely. It is, but it's like an amalgam. It's not. It's not like trying to change anything too drastically.
What's interesting too is that, I mean, this is an entity, Freddy, you know, quote unquote, that has been stewing and lying dormant for essentially 25 years, and
biding his time, gathering strength.
Right. So that also excites me as well, because that's going to be fun to work with. Like, I'm really excited to sort of see what angles you and I can come up with, Miko, like when we're actually sort of there, and what sort of because obviously there is a script and there is a direction and there is something that we have.
But if we find something, we're gonna explore it. We'll play with that.
Exactly.
There, you know,
100%.
and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, maybe it won't edit. But that's half the fun. Is you know,
right? Because I like how we seem to be on the same page with the approach to this, and that's exciting, because that's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
There was a question here from somebody. Oh boy, I forget where to go. I apologize. I think the chat went up a little too quick, but
while you search, forgive me, I gotta run to the little boys' room real quick.
Somebody said, Miko, are you doing anything to prepare for your return as Dylan Porter?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm still a little early in the process. We're not filming for a bit longer.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of curious what directions it could go, because who is really the same person they were when they were 7, you know?
Exactly.
So it's almost a blank slate. I don't think there's anything characteristically that I need to maintain. You know, as far as like mannerisms or anything, it was kind of me. So I think I can kind of lean on that. But if something develops, you know, I'm not opposed to that. I'd say we're still in the exploratory phase.
Yes.
Who knows? Maybe it'll be straightforward. Maybe there'll be a little something there. It's fun to play. I think also what I was kind of stoked on this project too is because I've kind of backed away from acting in more recent years. But what I liked about this is it is kind of me in a way that it's something I could sink my teeth in, and I know the story. I was there. Like, it feels a little more inherent, where a lot of other stuff that I've you know, I don't necessarily connect with some of the characters I get submitted on. And, you know, you do your best, but you don't, if you have a passion for it, or if you're like, oh, I got this. Like, it was a good script from the get-go, and I knew the character. Like, it was encouraging for sure.
Yeah, and I can imagine too that it's a character that, well, like you said, I mean, that you know, and to, you know, not too many people, whether it's through and you know, fan films. I mean, maybe, you know, 20 years ago it would have been like, well, you know, but fan films now are can be pretty, you know,
it's accessible. Like, the technology is accessible, the distribution is accessible,
100%.
And
how many people can say that they can revisit a character that they essentially, for all intents and purposes, created. And that's
I would have never imagined, this possibility.
Exactly.
So, and it's how fun to get to play again in something that was the most fun I had filming. Like, my favorite movie to work on was Ninghtmare. So,
right.
Yeah. Of course. How can I not want to play with that again?
This question comes in from Nathan Oswald. Now, I haven't seen this movie, but you might know what he's talking about.
Sure.
Miko, in Apollo 13, was it the door?
Hello?
Hello?
Might have lost audio. Are you there?
I'm here. Are you there? Hello?
Yeah.
Did we lose audio?
Blank here. Oh,
wait. Hello?
I think you're coming back. Could you hear me that whole time?
Yeah, I could hear you. Could you hear me?
I can hear you. You're back.
You can hear
You're
me now?
back. I don't know what happened. Yeah. Sorry.
I imagine that the stream just maybe hiccuped for a second.
Sure.
Fucking technology. So it was Miko in Apollo 13, quote, was it the door? End quote.
Yeah. That was my line in the movie. They're quoting the line from it. Yeah, because I was worried about my dad. There was an issue. He was telling a story about an issue with the rocket of what went wrong, and it was the door that was the issue.
Was it the door? Yeah,
I was worried about him going on it. Yeah,
I haven't seen that in a while, so that's why I didn't get it.
Sure.
Oliver Mercer says, "Hey Miko, would there be any real nightmares? Would there be any real nightmares you remember? Plus, have you ever had any spiritual experiences that stayed with you? I'm a big fan from the UK."
I'm trying to find that one so I can reread it too.
It is Oliver Mercer. Time code is 11:50 p.m.
Of
course, on your end,
any real nightmares?
Your end, it probably says 9:50 p.m. Or sorry,
gotcha.
8,
I see it.
8:50. Yeah.
I'm sure I've had some fucked up nightmares before, but that's the thing. You never really remember them.
Yeah.
You don't really hold on to them. I wish I had like a good story on tap because I'm sure that, there's some great ones, but not off the top of my head. Spiritual experiences. Yeah. Mostly from psychedelics, which sounds like I don't want that to cheapen it because it was very important and I learned a lot from it and I feel connected to the universe. So I hope that doesn't sound bad, but that was the strongest impact on me in that regard.
Cool.
For what it's worth.
It's interesting. I get asked a lot too. Have you ever dreamt of Freddy or ever had a nightmare about Freddy? And I never have. I've never dreamt. My nightmares tend to be based in reality, like in the sense like I'll dream like, oh shit, I completely missed that voiceover audition that came in.
Appointment.
Like, oh my God. And then they're like, you suck, you fucking suck. And whatever it is. It's like, oh no. And then like somebody's mad at me or something and then I wake up and I'm like, oh fuck, thank God it was just a dream. I don't tend to dream in like movie kind of
zombies or sometimes I'll have like a zombie kind of dream. Werewolves on occasion. I don't know.
That's cool.
But yeah, I know what you mean. It's more reality based. It's more like there's been a horrible car accident and your loved ones or body parts are in the street. That kind of thing. That's those are the fucked up ones.
Yeah, I never had those. I had 3 Hollywood dreams. I dreamt of Freddy, I dreamt of Jaws, and I dreamt of Tremors.
Wow.
And it was mostly Jaws and the Graboids. Because Jaws was you're fucked if you're in the water, and Graboids were you're fucked if you're on land.
Right.
Like, so I just, my mind
you were just fucked.
Wanted just fucked me. Yeah. Like my mind was like, hey, no matter where you are, you're going to get eaten by something.
Right.
Jaws, I had recurring dreams where there was one recurring dream where it was me on a body of land and I had to swim to another island. And obviously Jaws was in between. The other more fucked up Jaws dream that I had was one where I was inside a jail with the limited, like 3 cells, one of those small jails, but it was completely flooded. So I'm in one of the cells and Jaws is going up and down, like the Green Mile, like patrolling the fucking things. And I'm like, my cell is completely open. I'm gonna get eaten. And like that was the thing. And then graboids for the tremors dreams was just anytime I was on dirt rather than rock, the graboids could come after me. So yeah, it always scared the shit out of me. But Freddy was always a little bit less so than Jaws or graboids because I think it was a size issue for me. Freddy, I felt like I could get away from.
Or and even take down.
Well, not that I never took him down, but I could always stay a step ahead of him.
Right.
Like, none of my friends would ever like have him in their dreams, so I couldn't like team up on him and like, dream warriors the shit out of him.
Right.
Like, but I would be able to at least escape him because I learned as a kid, and this is a bit of a sidetrack, but because of all of my nightmares, I actually learned how to. Sorry, that's my alarm going off.
It's Freddy calling.
Yeah, it's Freddy calling. You never got away, bitch. But I learned how to wake myself up from nightmares. And the way I would do that is I would blink really, really hard. Picture this where I fall in the water and it's this big, deep water. And I've had numerous nightmares where sharks are just below me, swimming, great white sharks below me, because I've read books where that's happened, where there was a woman who was trying to do research along the Farallon Islands, which is an island chain along San Francisco in California, where great whites come to breed between September and November every year. And she went there. She heard a story about a guy that went there during those months but didn't know that. And he went there to try and wakeboard. And so when he got up on his board, he went down after the first time getting up, and he saw dozens of great white sharks below him.
Wow.
And he managed to get back up in the boat and get the hell out of there. And he's like, I never came back to wakeboard along the Farallon Islands. But that's where great white sharks breed. And so I've like thought of that kind of stuff. And like, Freddy was just a land-based shark. And so he would often be the thing that was chasing me when I was on land versus water. And I would have to outsmart him and stuff like that. So I don't know. Freddy's just always weaseled his way into my mind. And that was just the thing that just made me want to write about him amongst, all the other awesomeness about Freddy. But it's just crazy how things have come up, because he definitely permeated my nightmares growing up.
Dreed Mem 77 says, that Dave has nightmares about Fuller House episodes. Yes, it's true. Every night. Fuck! No! Don't
the
take a
loofah.
shit in the house. Yeah.
What was the loofah for?
Yeah. Damn loofah! What was it for? Was he gonna wipe his ass with it? Hilarious. Okay, how about we take it? Are you guys good for maybe another 20 minutes or so? Like, you want to, because that would make it, I think that would bring us to probably about 3 hours, which I think is a good stream.
It's gone by fast.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah. So, another 20, 25 minutes or so, because I think that'll take us, I think I went live just before, would have been 6:30 local time for you guys, 9:30 here. So, okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
So let's see. Looking for Bigfoot. How is the child murder aspect? What? Looking for Bigfoot says. Where do we go here?
No, I think I know what he's saying. It's child murder versus child rapist.
Child molester. How is the child murderer aspect going to play in Dylan's new Nightmare? Well, I don't think it has to, because
I don't think it's addressed.
Because it's not. It's because in this world, the Elm Street films 1 through 6 are fiction. So this is an evil entity that has manifested in this real lived-in world and has taken on, the persona and the look of Freddy. It's an entity that wants to become Freddy. It's like a entity fanboy or something.
It would probably.
Well, no, he doesn't want to become Freddy. He's just.
Well, I just mean he takes
so comfortable in Freddy's skin at this point.
Right.
Yeah, I think it would be evil in any way that it can be evil. I just don't think there's any relevance for that in the story that we have currently.
Right.
Agreed.
And I agree with that 100%. Let's see here. DeBears Live 960 says, if you like Halloween, check out my fan film there. Yeah, thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Jason Hudson says, I had a Freddy dream when I was in middle school, and in the dream I was in this huge haunted house. Don't remember what made it haunted, but just kept appearing and disappearing, but he never caught me. Well, that's kind of cool.
After Dream Warriors, I'm not surprised by that, because I think that honestly, I think part 3 is what solidified, and Dave, this relates to a recent video that you made. I think part 3 really solidified as the Elm Street house to be a house that you don't want to fuck with, because that's Freddy's house.
Right.
Like, and because Miko, Dave recently did a stream, the most iconic houses in horror. And, there's the Myers house, there's the Elm Street house, and appropriately, there's the Psycho house. But I think the Elm Street house is personally the most iconic. But yeah, I think 3, because there's the snake, right? There's the snake, and then everyone's trying to make their way through the house towards the end with the mirrors and all of that. All of that takes place. Yeah, it takes place in the Freddy house. And I think that really solidified it as a location that is both, it's both here in the real world, in the Nancy and Jesse aspect of it all, but it's also in the terrifying dream world in the 4 and 5.
It was almost I mean, now, because not at the time, but now it's almost like a upside down version.
Perfectly put.
Yes,
actually.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe once you get to Elm Street 3, most of what takes place in the house isn't actually in the house. It's in the house in the mind of the people who are dreaming. So that's my point. That's why I think it's such an important location, because even though they're not in the house, they're brought to the house, because that's the nexus of Freddy. Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And 4, I think, even leans into the house, especially 4 leans into it just as much as 3, because 4 is when she's chased into the house via the beach by the very shark-like Freddy claws coming through the sand, right?
Yeah.
Right.
MTV,
and then it's the rotten pig that like leaps at her, going, roar! That's in part 4.
Right.
That's featured in the house. So I think 3 and 4 really solidified the Nightmare house as frankly, even more so than the Psycho house. I think the Nightmare house is more iconic.
I respectfully disagree. I think that the
you can be wrong on your own channel. It's okay.
No, I totally get what you're saying, and I actually agree with everything you've said. But I believe that, like I said in my video, I think the most iconic house, because my
granted, I've never seen a Psycho movie.
Okay,
not a single one.
My video was based on, if we were going to ask the question, which is the most iconic house in horror, and there's a lot of them, what would be the benchmark for which you measure that? Because generally, Cecil aside, because he's actually laid out objective, quantifiable, really concrete reasons, but the general public generally would probably tend to lean towards, if your favorite horror movie is Halloween, you instinctually would probably say the Myers house. If it's the Amityville Horror, you'd say the Amityville house. If it's the
that's the one that came to mind for me, was Amityville, when I think of just houses, because I think that was the horror in that one, right? Like
there's the eyes,
right, which are no longer there. But I thought my reasoning was, there's many different sort of variables that you can take into play on how you decide which would be the most iconic in all of horror, and there really isn't a right or wrong answer. But I think to be as objective as possible in terms of, so it's not reliant on people's subjective emotions and what they're emotionally attached to, I think it would be, what is the one house, if you were to show people a bunch of them, what's the one house that you could show the average person on the street that the average person would immediately identify the most?
The Plutonic ideal of horror houses.
right. But I think that's kind of
I think 20 years ago it would have been Psycho. I don't know that that's the case anymore.
Well, it's a fair point to make, but I think it's the Psycho house, because of how Psycho has sort of transcended the horror genre, and the Psycho house the Psycho house in and of itself has sort of almost become a symbol of the genre. And you can look at the house and you sort of, it's a symbol of horror, in and of itself. And I think that it would not necessarily beyond North American audiences, but certainly North American audiences, I think. And I think right next to that, I think would probably be either the Amityville Horror House because of its eyes or the Elm Street House. I know a lot of people thought I was going to say the Myers House because it's my favorite horror movie, but no, sadly, I think because the Myers House only essentially appeared in one movie. I know it appeared in part 2 briefly, and they kept changing the house as they went along. The Myers House is further down. I think the average person wouldn't be able to pick out the Myers House.
I still think the colors of the Nightmare House with the white and the green and the red door is gonna do it nowadays. Nowadays, I think you'd get more, barely more for the Nightmare House than you would for the Psycho House.
We are going to do it when we are all in Phoenix, Arizona. We're going to go out on the street. We're going to get the camera. We're going to get the microphone.
We'll do Billy on the street, but we'll have Miko right next to us. What do you think of Miko Hughes as an actor?
That's right. Which house do you recognize the most? Come on.
Yeah.
Out of these 3 pictures.
That's right. Let's see here. Thunder Knock Studios sends in a super chat. Thank you, buddy. Much appreciated. Says, hey, guys, as a kid, I would have dreams about Victor Pascal standing at the foot of my bed. Come on, Doc.
Pascal.
We've got places. Pascal. What did I say?
No, I was saying it like the kid, Pascal.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Come on, Doc. We've got places to go. You know what? I got to admit, even as a kid, that's where he's just suddenly there at the foot of the bed. Fuck, that used to freak me out too. That was terrifying.
The effects on that were amazing.
Oh,
they hold up today too.
And still to this
the brain
day, thing, I cringe when Miko, your character. I don't know if this was you, because I know they had a I don't want to say puppet, but there was also like a right. So I don't know if it was you that did this, because it might have been sort of a little too much for your age. But when your character cuts the back of the foot of from
under the bed.
Yeah, even today I'm like, oh fuck, that would hurt.
Achilles.
That's a grody cut.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Two super chats from PC Pierce. Thank you, buddy. Much appreciated. I think you're saying the same thing.
Real quick before we move on from his thing, kind of a cool note that made me think of it, because he said how it's a good ghost, my ass.
Oh, right.
I went to a screening kind of fairly recently with Mary Lambert, the director, and she talked about it afterwards and had this awesome insight about Pascal and Judd being light and dark angels, and you think the one that's good is the one that's bad, and the one that looks good and seems good is bad.
Because Judd is the one that's
Judd is like, hey,
the
check
evil.
this shit out. Hey, you can bring back, hey, try it,
that makes so much sense.
He shows them where it is. He tells them about it. He's like, don't do it, but if you wanna, you could. And then Pascal
sometimes dead is better.
Yeah, looks evil as hell, but the whole time he's trying to help him, and he won't listen, and he does everything he can. But it's like this cool duality of good and bad, light and dark.
If I could insert somebody's head exploding right now, I would.
Well, let me just.
Well, that's what happened when she said that. I was like, oh, you're so good.
Here's the funny thing, Miko, is something that I probably will get in trouble for mentioning, but it's something that Fuego, Fuego, you met him a few times. He had an idea, because he's a huge Stephen King fan.
Yeah.
And what if there was a continuation of the original story?
Yeah.
Called Ellie's Cemetery, because Ellie went away in the original thing, right? So what if she comes back? And she comes back to try and figure out what the hell happened to her family. And what if she sees little Gage in a grown-up format instead of Pascal?
Oh, like if he would.
She sees little Gage being her you don't want to come back, don't come back, that kind of thing.
Similar.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
I was like, that's
kind of cool.
Fucking cool idea.
That actually is really cool. That actually I like that. I like that a lot.
I'll tell Fuego, because that
better than the remake.
I was like, that's legitimately a fucking good idea.
That's
so credit goes to Fuego on that, because that I was like, that's genuinely pretty cool. I love
cool.
the idea that these stories are out there. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
the fact that they're out there for people to discover. You know, like all these years later, it's like, oh my God, that would be a great story. Yeah. Like Ellie just disappeared in the original Pet Cemetery. What happened? You know, she went to live with her folks, but then, yeah, it's totally ambiguous. Such a great story. Again, New Nightmare, Dylan's New Nightmare. I think that's a really good story to tell that people just haven't thought of. 100%. You know, like there's so much of that going on. And that's why I kind of am both. It's a double-edged sword, right? With the current climate of horror movies, where it's like you can't get anything made unless it's a property that you know, but then again, you're not leaving room for new, cool, independent ideas if you're doing it that way.
Right.
But at the same time, there's these independent continuations of properties you know, so it's like that wouldn't happen were it not for the current climate. So it's this weird balancing act that's going on, and you just got to find the best place to operate within that. But that's why I mean, the long story short that I was going to get to here is that I just wanted to thank both you, Dave, and Miko for your parts in this, because this wouldn't be a project that people would find viable without you two.
And it wouldn't happen without you. So thank you,
100%.
man. Right back at you.
Absolutely, man. It's a collaborative team effort, and you know, things are just going to be firing on all cylinders. I mean, I can feel that, and that doesn't mean that there's not going to be, you know, those issues that you face when you're making a movie, whether it's a feature or a short or, you know, whatever it is. But I think with the team you've assembled, I think we'll be able to figure it out and hopefully deliver something that the fans can really appreciate. So I appreciate you saying that, and right back at you. You know, as Miko said, I mean, it's just.
And also thanks to everybody, the fans, you know, everybody in the chat and everybody that donated and everybody willing to put up with us jerk each other off for 3 hours.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks for hanging in there.
But you know what? You're right, though, because
we're all part of it, you know?
Yeah, like the big booty bitches. I mean, I'm just
big booty bitches.
That's what's coming down to. But you make up, or you make a good point, because, you know, the world of fandom, I mean, there's it's sort of a cliche that if fan films are done right, and certainly Never Hike Alone was probably the real catalyst for this. And obviously Vince is going to be doing Never Hike in the Snow, which is just absolutely amazing. And if and even more beyond that, if that is successful. And, but I think what's really cool is that, you know, once the studios, and this is by and large, but once they're done with it, like once it runs its course and they make a couple of movies that don't do well, you know, at the box office, and they inevitably sort of abandon it for a while, but the mythology and the lore and the character live on in the fans, and it's the fans that build the extra, you know, well, what about this? What about that? You could do this, you could do that, you could do this. And as Miko was saying earlier when you were out of the room, I mean, the technology now that exists, you know, I mean, I get asked a lot, like, you know, Dave, how would I, you know, could approach this, approach that? And I'm like, dude, you have a movie camera in your pocket, you know, that you can go out and you can shoot, you know, and you got free editing software that you can download and, or you know, doesn't cost a lot. I can
it's
only
time and dedication.
It's time and dedication. There's always a learning curve in understanding angles and lighting and all that kind of jazz. But at the end of the day, I would have given anything to have that at 17 or 16. I mean, I was editing my little home films from, you know, VCR to VCR and, you know, trying to make sure that I could cut it right. Oh, shit, pause. Oh, fuck. You know, and all that stuff.
Gotta start over.
Yeah, literally. Or you're editing in camera, you know, trying to, you know, back it up and cut it at a certain point. So I don't know where I was going with this. I guess I was just saying that it's really cool that these types of things live on, where now there's opportunities for people like Cecil and Vince and everybody to show that, you know, the fans have something to say, and that there is, it's not just, oh, that's a fan film. It's, oh, hey, there's something here, you know, and that's exciting. So, okay, a few more minutes. I'll take, see, Nathan Oswald sent in a super chat and says, Miko quotes in Kindergarten Cop are so hilarious. I agree.
First time you've heard that, right, Miko?
That is the first time you've ever heard that.
Yeah, it used to, when I was little, it bugged me because they would like tease me. And I was a kid, you know.
Right.
I didn't really get it. I was like, it was a little heavy. Now it's funny. I gotta own it.
Yeah, the joke is you got it before everyone else did, quite frankly.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Were you ever up for the lead in that film?
Freaking Kindergarten Cop? No,
Yeah,
I don't think so, because I was quite a bit younger.
You were a bit younger. That's what I thought.
I think they had like kind of the ensemble, and from what I understand, the story that my mom tells is I didn't have any lines, but they liked me and they thought they could do something funny.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, I don't think it was improv, but it was like, a few days or a few weeks beforehand, just during the filming, they're like, hey, we think we want to give him this line. It'll be cute. It'll be funny.
Yeah.
What do you think? And she said she really kind of stewed on it for a long time, because it could be terrible and weird, and it could, totally not work, or it could be one of the most memorable lines from the movie. And thankfully it was the latter.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think what is and I haven't seen the film in a while, but but what I remember about that is how enunciated you were when you said girls have a penis, boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
I think I spoke better when I was a kid than now. I tend to mumble nowadays.
Yeah. It was so
very
vagina.
Yeah, very clinical.
Like, hey.
Well, he was a doctor.
I know nowadays be like, yo, dude's got a dick, girl's got a twat.
That's so. I'm sorry, I just joked because it's so funny. I'm just looking. Hey, they have a vagina, just so you know. Okay, that's right. That's funny.
Because he doesn't know.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, yeah. And I don't imagine at that age you really knew what you were saying. I mean, like you knew, but not knew. The gravity per se.
Yeah. The meaning. I don't think I knew like the literal. I just knew it was something I wasn't supposed to say that was funny.
Right.
That made adults laugh.
Now, am I mistaken, Miko, or didn't you say during our interview that was the line that kind of eventually grew to be kind of the bane of your convention-going career?
Maybe not so much. It can not
the bane necessarily, but the one that was like again.
It's like, I mean, you can imagine. It was a lot. It became a lot. And
I can't imagine, because I didn't have like a Bart Simpson, I didn't do it, I didn't have that. Like, you had a catchphrase. That's more than a lot of us get.
Yeah.
But I can imagine it's a double-edged sword, though.
At that age, it was rough, because I'd be at the mall or something, and somebody recognized, and then it'd be a group, and then they'd all be asking questions, and they'd be, say it, say the line, say it. Are you gonna say it? Come on, just say it. And it's like, I'm 7, and I'm trying to look at this video game, like, what the fuck, like that.
Right.
That's not cool,
Yeah.
But it was a bunch of teenagers or whatever.
Like, I'm busy preparing my Mario Kart career to beat my
director.
Right.
Can you imagine if at that age you turned and you were like, yeah, okay, boys have a penis, your mom has a vagina.
Yeah. I saw your mom's vagina, bitch.
Yeah, but I mean, it took a few years to figure it out.
That's funny. I think that's funny. Let me just make sure I didn't miss any super chats. I don't believe I did, because the last one.
Can I ask a separate question that's kind of impromptu?
100%. Yeah, go right ahead.
So, Miko, without spoiling anything, is there anything that you are particularly excited to portray from the movie? Because you get to do a few different things. And again,
we kind of might have touched on this a little bit when you were in the bathroom.
We did. Oh, really? Okay, please. But then, just give me a little bit of clarity.
Yeah,
there's something that I'm.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say while he stews. There is something that we talked about, Cecil. I can't remember if we talked about it when we were having dinner and Miko was there, or if it was at Nora's place prior to getting together. And I don't want to say it, so I'm just going to allude to it because I don't know if it's a potential.
I'll pick up what
spoiler.
you're laying down.
But there's something that Robert Englund does in New Nightmare.
Yes.
That he I don't know what to say, but there's
I
something
know
he
what you're
does,
saying.
yeah, that I really love.
That you want to see brought back in some way.
and it was.
I feel like it's hard to bring that back without bringing him back, though.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you're talking about the specific thing that he was.
I'm talking about what he did, like in terms of a movement he does. Well, I could just say
mannerism.
Yes,
go ahead.
He stands up, and there was.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking
Yes,
about?
that is something. Okay, so that is something that we would tackle, but that would not be in part one.
Too.
Okay,
I like that too, though.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because that.
Yes, and in fact, Miko was a party to a discussion where we talked all about that, where his character would have someone involved that would be the.
There was a potential scenario where that could happen.
Indeed.
But it'd be a different scene that's not in the one that we have currently.
Correct. But it would be a direct homage, yes.
Yeah, because that's
and it would
something
totally
like,
make sense.
Just picturing what Nora and you guys were talking about in terms of the makeup and the prosthetics, and just feeling like even right now I can feel it in my shoulders. I can feel myself sort of, getting into it, this vibe, and just
let's
picturing
touch on
that moment.
Yeah.
Is just whether it happens, in this one or not, or like you said in maybe a part two. That's something that I just would love to be able to tip my hat to, because just the way they do it in his face, I'm just like,
agreed.
That's a great
story. Agreed. And I think we're trying to get the pieces in place to make that happen. And in fact, you and I were going back and forth about that just before we went live.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, we're talking about the same thing. But here's something I wanted to mention regarding the project that I think, Miko, we mentioned in passing maybe during the dinner, but when we were there and Dave was, face covered, head covered, he was under the watchful eye of Nora and her amazingly talented girlfriend, who actually was had just
Rachel
finished
her name, isn't it?
Yeah, Rachel, who had just finished working on Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. So nice. They were there working on everything, and while we were there, like, there were some interesting things that came up, and now I'm gonna flake on why I brought it up, because I detoured a little bit too long. How did I start that, guys? Help me with how I start that.
I was talking about something that inspired me from New Nightmare that I was really excited to sort of put my own stamp on, and then you were saying that you were like, actually, Miko, there's something that I wanted to mention. Something I was getting my face cast done. Nora was doing it with Rachel.
Yes. So what we were talking about was, and the reason I wanted to bring this up was because of the simpatico involved here, right? So when I went out to California to do this headcast, or to film the behind the scenes of the headcast, and hopefully get everyone together for dinner with Miko and everything, which ended up working out. When I went out there, I had a particular idea of a makeup for Freddy that I was partial to. And I even mentioned and messaged Vince the day before I went out to California, because I drove out by myself to do this and to film the behind the scenes. And I mentioned to Vince, hey, do you think Nora would be open to this idea? And he's like, I don't know, run it by Nora when you get out there. And I was like, okay. And so when Dave was, totally under, we drifted to the makeup for Freddy, obviously a big, important point for the movie. And Nora said, well, here's the thing. I had this idea. There's a particular look that I really like that was very unique, and I really like this look, and I wanted to run it by you. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, please tell me that this is the moment that I literally, because I messaged Vince the day before going, hey, I really like this particular look for Freddy, but it wasn't done justice. It wasn't done long enough. It wasn't done justice. And I think it would make a ton of sense for our Freddy. And he's like, yeah, run it by Nora. And then Nora, before I even have a chance to say what that is, she's like, so I had this idea. There's one look that I really like that didn't have
same wavelength
justice done. And she's like, it's this one. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, Vince, tell her that that's not the moment I was messaging you about, that that's the look I want. Literally, the one look that she had keyed into was the one look that I had in my mind as well. So that is it's not a normal thing necessarily when it comes to making movies. And the fact that we were both on the exact same wavelength was super encouraging. And Dave kind of saw this whole thing unfold right in front of his eyes. Dave, how was that, seeing that, you're seeing the director of the project and the makeup person of the project gel in a way that even neither of them expected to? What was that like?
Well, it was awesome. I mean, once I took off my tube top and let my pecs breathe, I was, realized I needed a tan. I was, I mean, it was awesome. And because you were referring to a particular look that from a particular moment in a particular movie that I had not seen in some time, Nora and Cecil Nora and Cecil then decided to bring this particular moment in this particular movie up on Nora's TV. Mm-hmm. And we were watching this particular moment from this particular movie, and I hadn't seen this movie in years. And it's been a while. So when I saw the moment and they paused it on the TV and I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, now that, because I'm like Cecil is thinking, as the director and the writer and the producer, he sees it and he thinks of it from a little bit of a different perspective than I am. He's thinking about it, sure, of what it could, look like on me for sure. But he's got all these other variables that he needs to think of. And then Nora is not really thinking about what I think. She's thinking about, now, how can I create this, my version of this? And she's trying to think of that. And then I'm there in the background going, I can't wait to get this on me, if that's what it's going to look like, because I'm starting to think about how I'm going to, how I'm going to move my face, or, all these kind of things and all that kind of stuff.
It's a little different.
It's a little different from person to person, but it's just, I do have to say that was, that was a wise choice, because it's frightening. It's downright frightening.
It's frightening, but what was really cool was just seeing how into it we all were, because Nora and I were going back and forth, and then I'm like, yo, Vince, you're being a little quiet. What are your thoughts? And he explained why he was being a little quiet. We're not going to go into all of those details, but he was like, yeah, I think this is a solid idea. And then Dave pitched in his thing, and it was a really cool, sort of pseudo writer's room for the first time. And then we got to kind of relay it. Yeah. I wish we could have too. Yeah. No, you were working, bro. So we got it, but we got to do, we got to kind of catch you up on it and stuff. But the only reason I'm delving as deep into it as I am right now is because, Miko, I want you to, really get that we were all gelling on a level that we really weren't necessarily anticipating we would. Yeah. And so that's really exciting. It's really exciting.
Yeah, it is.
100%. Before we wrap up.
Seems like that keeps happening.
Yeah, for sure.
It does. It does.
Yep. I absolutely
keep that
agree.
momentum.
Yep. Super chat from Howard D. The new Nightmare creature is like it. Well, it prefers the form of a clown. The Nightmare creature loves the form of Freddy. That's not a bad way to look at it.
That's an interesting interpretation.
I love that, Howard. That's great.
Yep. Great stuff. Cody Snyder says, at Dave McRae, is Bruce involved with the project at all? No, he's not. Bruce is a buddy of mine who's a filmmaker here in Toronto, and we ourselves are in development on a Black Christmas fan film called It's Me, Billy. So we've just wrapped up. We're closing in on the second draft of our script. So, but no, Bruce is not involved with this project. Let me see. David Ferguson says, good morning from Scotland. I think you guys are going to...
Good morning!
That's right. I think you guys are going to bring something very special to YouTube. Thanks very much, David. Much appreciated. David's a great supporter of the channel. And listen, guys...
I'm particularly partial to Scottish people because Laird in Scotland means Lord. I am Scottish, a good portion in my heritage, so
fuck.
I love the Scottish people.
Do I have to call you Lord Cecil from now on? I mean, I didn't.
I mean, you know, you can, and I won't argue against it.
I was not aware that I was in the presence of, you know, royalty. And, you know,
please call me Lord. No, it's good. It's good.
Oh, another super chat just came in. Oh, no, wait. That was from earlier. All right, guys, we've been going for 3 hours here, so we're going to wrap this up. I mean, we could go on and on and on here, but, of course, it's after midnight for me, so, of course, it is a Friday night. But nonetheless, I think 3 hours is a good time because I don't think people are going to watch a 9-hour stream anyway. So,
no, and thank you very much, Miko, for your generosity of your time.
This was fun. Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks,
Miko. It was a good thing.
Yeah, really appreciate it. And folks, as usual, if we didn't get to your question, it's nothing personal. At one point, we had about 150 people in the room, and obviously, with everything going by, it can be tricky to do, and the super chats obviously take priority for obvious reasons. But we appreciate everybody who has watched. And don't forget, if you haven't already and you're thinking about it, you have another 2 weeks left to contribute to Dylan's new Ninghtmare Indiegogo campaign. The link is in the description, folks. We want to deliver on something really special here, and the perks are just awesome, so check it out. And if you can't, that's okay. That's okay. Don't feel bad. Just do something, find somebody who maybe can and spread the word. Spreading the word can help and go a long way as well. So, I guess, that's going to do it for us. Let me just make sure I'm going to hit the right button.
Well, Nathan just sent in $2 saying rock on, gents. So thank you, Nathan.
Awesome. Thank you, Naked. Naked.
Naked.
Thanks, Naked.
Thank you, Naked.
Thanks, Naked. I really appreciate it.
Dave, go get fucked, buddy. It sounds like you need to.
Big booty bitches, ladies and gentlemen.
Big booty bitches.
Big booty bitches.
Straight up. Thank you very much, Miko, for your time. We appreciate it, sir.
Thank
This
you
was
guys.
a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And that's going to do it for us. Okay, I'll talk to you guys. Hey, tomorrow night, to my patrons, don't forget, I'm doing a Saturday movie night. It'll be live on my channel afterwards. I'm giving some commentary on Sleepaway Camp, so look for that tomorrow night, probably around, 9 or 10 o'clock or so. All right, that's going to do it for us. We're out of here. Cheers.